For thousands of years, these podcasters have remained in hiding all around the world.
Hey!
And unless all the SOS reunite for this review,
Hey!
our planet will perish.
Hey!
And so will we.
Hey!
Jesus Christ, what is it, David?
Don't you think this trailer is missing something?
Like what?
Oh, I don't know. How about me?
You poor lost bastard.
I'm doing this because of you fuckers!
Really?
Get Bill Fat. What? Get Bill Fat. Get Bill Fat. Hashtag that shit. Get Bill Fat.
Long live David.
Hey!
Hello, people of the internet, and welcome to the proper review for Godzilla King of the Monsters, the long-awaited sequel to Godzilla 2014. And of course, I couldn't do this without my special group of friends here. You may know them from the Sons of Serizawa podcast, but I like to refer to them as Bill Worster, aka Zazubar.
Oh, we're special. I don't know what that's supposed to mean, but I'm going to take it as a good thing.
David Joshua Hernandez, a.k.a. David, a.k.a. Gurizzard, a.k.a. Gorizard.
Yeah, you couldn't do this because you're legally obligated by the union to include us in any of your bullshit reviews.
That is mostly true, my friend. Mostly true. And last but
Mostly
certainly not least, it is Dylan McCandless, a.k.a. Super DM64.
I like how Andres is like, you may know them as the SOS, but I like to refer to them by their names.
Which is true, you know?
They're-
It's like
they're
it's not
Christian
like,
names.
It's not like we refer to each other by our online usernames.
No.
Just their actual names. Not
Never.
for-
I've never ever called you KaijuNoir unironically.
Right?
Because from the day I met you, I knew your name was Andre. I thought your name was Andre at first, to be fair.
Andre.
But ever since I realized it was Andres forward, I've called you Andres.
Right. Just imagine in public, just me referring to you as, hey, Zazubar.
Yeah. One of my friends
Hey,
from
let's
college
do that next time.
No!
Yeah, it'll be real fun for the people around us who will call the police, thinking that I'm like some kind of drug dealer.
or is
No,
it-
I mean let's go to a Starbucks and give out our YouTube usernames
No!
instead of our real names.
Or as I like to call him, Zanzibar.
The first person to make that joke, Dylan, believe it or not.
No,
And that you're
know
totally not.
I know,
You're
I know I'm
100%
not, because I've actually made it before in the past. So, not the first time.
Well, you actually remembered that one.
We're here to talk about Godzilla 2019 now. It's been 5 long years since the first movie came out, and, you know, we've had our thoughts about it. We certainly talked a lot about it in the leading up to that movie, and we talked about it during its premiere and in the aftermath. You know, we let stew in our consciousness over the last half a decade, and we had King Kong and Shin Godzilla and the anime trilogy to tie us over in the meantime. And so
Unpopular take here, not enough Bryan Cranston.
that is true, yeah. And we even got less Bryan Cranston in this movie, so I'm very disappointed in that.
100% less Bryan Cranston.
But on one hand, we have 100% less Aaron Taylor Johnson, and I do not mind that.
No.
So,
I do think he was given a nod, and we can talk about that when we maybe talk about Easter eggs.
All right. So yeah, when we're talking about like Godzilla King of the Monsters, so it came out. It's it's doing okay-ish at the box office. It's certainly not making Avengers money.
But it's not the absolute dumpster fire that is Dark Phoenix. Have you seen this? Heard about this? Jesus Christ!
So it's like, it's not setting the world on fire, but it's doing competently enough. It's gained quite an interesting reaction across the mainstream audiences, across Godzilla fans, across film critics, across everybody essentially. It's a very interesting time this time, and things are very uncertain for the future of the MonsterVerse. But before we can even speculate what's going to happen from here on out with the Hollywood Godzilla series, let's talk about this film first. So, I guess going in order from when I called you guys, Bill, David, Dylan, what are your immediate thoughts on the movie itself?
Oh man, you're gonna throw me out there first? Like you're gonna push me in front of the firing line? Really?
I mean, that's how it usually worked, didn't it?
You're gonna kick me in the ass? I'll do it. Fine.
Just tell me, do you like it?
I'll take it. I liked it a lot. Yeah, I really did. I fucking walking out of it, I was like, oh yeah, no, this one worked. And in a way that no Godzilla movie has hit me in a long time. Like I liked 2014. I liked Shin. I didn't watch most of the anime movies. So this one, though, I really fucking walked out of it like, oh no, I really fucking liked that one. Really well paced. It's kind of hard for me to even get into specifics in my kind of overall thoughts here, but the pacing was really good. I really liked the human story. I really liked all the cast. I really liked all the new characters. I really liked what they did with the returning characters. I really liked what they did with Godzilla, including him in that, sort of. The special effects were fucking off the chain. What they did with the classic Toho monsters was off the chain.
Off the hook?
Yeah, no. I really had a fucking great time with this one. I saw it 3 times opening weekend, so each time it was the same.
I would try to see it that much, but unfortunately it's like $18 a ticket to watch a movie in Japan, so I'm not about
I'll be honest, I maybe shouldn't have seen it 3 times, but I did. I'll say that much, but and that just shows you, I really fucking had a good time with this one. One specific thing I'll say, then I'll let all you guys go.
Yeah.
The fucking opening seconds with the footsteps. I mean, if you want to get a Godzilla fan hyped for your Godzilla movie, you reference that aspect of the original. And that worked for me real well. And the red and the mythological renditions of the monsters in the stone, that was a good way to one-up the already really cool way they opened 2014 with the little radio scatter and the opening credits of the film. But, I'll let you guys know. I'll let you guys go because I discussed for 2 minutes.
So, David, what did you think of Godzilla King of the Monsters 2019?
The first time I saw it, I had a very polarizing reaction. Excruciatingly mixed. It took me a week. I guess 2 weeks by now, because I saw it again today earlier. And I liked it better this time, the second time around. But the first time I saw it, I feel like I had the same reaction I had when I watched 2014 and, to an extent, The Dark Knight Rises, because my first time viewing those films were with mixed feelings. And I felt like I needed time to process what I saw, because going into this movie, into those movies to an extent, I had a certain amount of expectations. And since half of those expectations weren't completely met, I had to process this film for what it was. And I guess it's, in a way, it's kind of like more of a classical B-movie, B-monster film, but with a modern Hollywood budget. So at least that's how I felt about it today.
So it's like that was the sort of like the takeaway I got from it as well, close enough. But
that's totally fair too, and I think that was the intention.
Were you expecting something else going in?
Oh yeah, I expected a lot, so much from this film because, well, to be honest, I have no one else to blame but myself. I moderate the Wikipedia page for this. 60% of the information that's on there, I put it there.
Oh wow! I didn't know that. That's fucking nuts, dude.
Yeah, but it's not under. It's under an alias. It's not under Gorzard. Anyways,
is it under
Jesus Christ, you are 10 times more the pirate than I joke about you being. You feel like the internet, like fucking scavenger who lurks in the shadows, and I don't know is there.
He's a pirate.
Yeah,
Bro. He's a bad boy.
It's one of 17 aliases and counting.
Is one of them Rusty Shackleford?
I plead the fifth on that one.
One of them should be Angry Frog. I'm just going to throw that out there. If you need another one in the future, Angry Frog.
You see, I was thinking New Master 69 or 6969.
It's taken.
That's definitely taken. The minute that movie came out, somebody went home and made that account. Are you kidding me?
Oh, definitely.
What are you,
I'm playing
you're
Halo
gonna call
right
yourself
now.
Doctor Strange?
No, you got to call yourself X, like small X, big X, underscore New Master 69 underscore big X, small X.
I'll take that into consideration, and I will not give royalties if I copyright that one. Well, anyways, what was your question again? What did I expect out of it?
Oh yeah, what did you expect out of it? Yeah.
I expected so much because, like I said, I moderate the
Wikipedia
page, and all the information that I found out about the movie, I expected it to be there, and half of it wasn't there. And at the same time, I also saw every single TV spot and the IMAX preview a dozen times.
I made sure I didn't do that with this time, man. I think that was part of why I had such a good time each time.
I
regret it.
They always show up on my Facebook feed and they autoplay, so I'm like, God damn it!
I regret it. That was a big mistake. I am not going to be doing that with Godzilla vs. Kong. I felt like, part of the reason is because Legendary and Warner Brothers' stupid marketing. They put so many spoilers into the goddamn into the marketing. Into the trailers.
And it wasn't so much even the trailers. The TV spots were way worse. There were so many things in those TV spots that I was like, "Whoa, really? Like, hold that back, why don't you?"
Since I already I was going to finish. Since I already knew what was going to happen based on what I saw on the TV spots and the trailers, it wasn't really that much of a surprise by the time I actually saw it for the first time on the big screen. And that's when I realized, okay, I fucked up. I should not have seen the goddamn TV spots.
David
shouldn't have moderated the Wikipedia article in secret.
Exactly.
Not so secret anymore, by the way.
Well, I mean, for the week that the movie was released, I took a break from Wikipedia because people were posting spoilers, and I'm like, okay, I'm done for the week.
At least you did. I thought you were like fucking sitting in the theater before the movie comes out, like editing the fucking article, like, oh,
no way.
I got this wrong. I haven't even seen the movie yet, but I read the novelization.
Oh, I'm
actually working my way through the audiobook right now. So far, I'm very happy.
There's an audiobook for the novelization?
Yeah, it's real good.
Ooh.
I should read that. I've got such a long reading list, though.
It's Greg Keyes, and he clearly wanted to write a Godzilla.
I love Greg Keyes.
Yeah, he clearly wanted. He clearly wanted to write a Godzilla novel.
What did he do?
Oh, he's written a bunch of the good Planet of the Apes stuff that me and Bill have reviewed.
Oh, okay.
He's a favorite. He's one of the better Planet of the Apes related authors. I'm sure he's written a bunch of other shit too that I'm just not aware of.
Yeah, interesting. He's a big I do this part of this franchise, but he also has done a lot of original stuff that has been raved about. So I should read that too.
Cool.
Anyway, David, your opinions and not your status as the Wikipedia editor.
Did I like it? The first time I saw it, I liked it, but I was disappointed. I felt like it was overwhelming and underwhelming all at once. Today, after watching it for the second time, I like it better the second time around. Now that I finally saw it for what it is and knowing what to expect, a lot of the flaws that I first noticed weren't that noticeable. I guess because it's been like a week and a half, and enough time for me to process what I saw. Now, seeing it for what it is, I actually like it. At first, I was thinking it was just a 2-star movie. I'll reveal that later. But yeah, now it's a solid movie.
Okay.
Now it is to me.
Yeah. And finally, what are your thoughts, Dylan?
I don't know why this fucking movie is so goddamn divisive. I swear to God, the movie could literally come out of the screen and suck your dick, and people would be like, "Oh, I don't know, it wasn't that good."
There wasn't any passion behind it.
David feels so attacked right now. It's not even funny. I feel so bad.
This is, I think, I'm not going to say the best because it's going to start a lot of arguments about certain movies that came out in 2016 that I didn't like. This is my favorite modern Godzilla movie. This may be my favorite Godzilla movie since like GMK.
Oh yeah, I think it's the best Godzilla movie since Biollante.
Ooh.
I said this to Bill. I walked out of this theater and I had the exact same thought that I had when I walked out of the theater last year when I saw Bohemian Rhapsody, which was, wow, all the criticisms I've heard about this movie are technically true, but I don't give a fuck. That was amazing.
That was pretty much exactly what I thought as well. Getting out of the theater.
Yeah, and I get it. You know, it's not Shakespeare. You know, the script has got some problems. We'll talk about that. It's not a perfect movie by any stretch of the imagination.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't imagine a more satisfying, just theater-going experience in terms of just pure kaiju action. Like
Pure Godzilla-dom.
Yes, this is what Final Wars was trying to be, and with way less kaiju.
It's funny because I feel like this film is more akin to Destroy All Monsters and Megalon.
Yeah,
it's definitely the plot is definitely, I think, closer to Destroy All Monsters because of what the humans are threatening to do. But I don't know about Megalon. Where do you get Megalon from?
Well, here's why, and this is I pulled Megalon out from my first experience. I feel like the reason why I felt like King of the Monsters is more akin to those two films is because just like those two movies, King of the Monsters kind of emphasizes more monster battles and special effects, giving very little thought to its story and characters.
All right, well, I don't agree with that at all, but that's fair, I guess. But I would say it's closer to Destroy All Monsters because I also like the human stuff in that. So. But it is definitely more minimalistic in comparison to some of the earlier Ishiro Honda Godzilla movies.
I've only gotten to see it once, unfortunately. I want to see it again, but also there's like a lot of shit coming out right now.
Yeah.
So it's a very competitive season.
Oh yeah. You got people are like exhausted after watching Avengers Endgame for like the 5th, 10th, 20th time. There's,
right.
There's
I saw an article about. I saw an article about one guy who's seen Avengers Endgame 103 times.
Yeah.
That man.
Jesus Christ.
That man deserves a fucking medal. Like Marvel should be paying him money. At this point. He is personally trying to get that movie past the Avatar record.
He's doing it single-handedly.
And I'm like, look, man, if I had that fuck you money, I'd be right there fighting the battle with you. I'd be selling out screenings. Fuck Avatar. But no, to sum up, I like the movie. It might be my favorite MonsterVerse movie. I'm not sure, just because I've only seen it the once, and I'm not sure if I like it more than Kong on the whole.
Yeah.
In terms of pure kaiju action, it's definitely on a higher scale than Kong, obviously. But yeah, that's where I'm sitting on it.
Okay, and like you, unfortunately I've only seen the movie once, and I do want to see it again eventually. Although, given how very few screenings there were of the English version at Japanese theaters, which is very uncommon for a Hollywood movie, I doubt there's any more English showings left after a week.
Did they do a dub?
They do. They always do a dub, and a part of me they always do a dub for any Hollywood movie that comes to Japan. But a part of me wanted to.
Wouldn't it be so freaking hilarious if that's why some Japanese people don't like the movie? Is because like the dub is bad. Like imagine it's just a really bad. It's a really bad.
Probably not great. It might be good, but based on how Toho marketed it, it probably isn't great.
And they're writing reviews like, man, the lip movements don't even add up. I don't know what she was saying. I don't know what she was saying, but it was not Nani.
I think it's like it would have been really cool just to have this like bizarro situation where you're watching an American Godzilla movie being dubbed in Japanese and watching
with English subtitles.
With English subtitles in a Japanese.
I would love
movie
to do
theater.
that. Yeah,
it's like whoa.
I would love that. As long as I could have the English subtitles, that'd be great.
I would watch that. Yeah. Just to see.
What I do is I watch a lot of the Japanese versions. And I put music on low in the background.
I expect Ken Watanabe to dub himself.
Now that you said that, I wonder if the Godzilla Blu-ray from 2014 has a Japanese audio option.
Yeah, it does. It does. I have it. It does. I have it.
Oh wow!
I gotta watch that. I'm very curious now. I never thought about that before.
David,
I can upload it.
Is the Japanese Blu-ray better? Like does it
No,
is it still dark?
no, it's the exact same as the American one. That's the reason why I got it, because I thought it was better. Turns out I was wrong, and waste of $60.
$60 you dropped on that. Oof.
Well,
but it has a nicer cover though, doesn't it?
Japanese Blu-rays are expensive, from what I understand.
Yeah, especially when it comes to TV shows.
Yeah, I didn't get mine from eBay. I had to get it from CD Japan, which they sell authentic Japanese stuff, but at Japanese prices.
But David, the cover art was like really cool though, wasn't it? Because I remember when you got
definitely.
Yeah, I remember the cover art was really...
definitely.
Probably even higher than Japanese prices, because they've got to pay for the cost of importing.
Yeah, they got to send it to you,
that too. The fucking shipping. Forgot about that.
So I guess as I was saying, like, I only got the chance to see it once, but I got out of it extremely satisfied. I left the theater with like a huge, gigantic smile on my face. I was just like excited throughout the whole entire journey. I do agree. I do agree with Dylan that as I was watching the movie, I noticed the flaws that other people had pointed out. But I was thinking to myself as I was watching the movie, I see these flaws. I know some people are gonna have issues with them, but at the moment, I do not care. This is not bothering. I'm noticing them, I'm acknowledging them, but it is not disrupting my experience at all one single bit. And
I think that to a certain extent, that's like what good like B science fiction should do is like you realize
that's a Godzilla movie, kids.
You look at it.
Not all Godzilla movies, we have to say, but a particular.
No, but I also
Godzilla
don't even. I'm not even saying like, oh, you see the flaws and you disregard them. I even mean just like, there are certain elements of like things they kind of left out. We'll talk about it more in detail when we get into the human stuff in particular, because that's what I'm talking about.
I don't want to make make the claim that it's like, oh, it's a Godzilla movie. Story doesn't matter. Of course.
This also isn't a dumb bad movie. I don't think that at all.
That's not what I'm saying either. And I will say, even though I said, the criticisms about the movie are true and I don't care, I do think that some of the criticisms are a little overblown. But most of them are fair. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I feel like it all comes down to like the subjective experience. Like with any movie, it's like every movie has its problems. The real question is, how much does it bother you? And that's going to be different depending on who you are and what your taste in film is like. And for many people, giant monsters just aren't their thing. So if there's nothing of any real substance outside of the giant monster element to get their attention, then the movie's not going to be for them. It's like it's they're going to leave with it feeling underwhelmed. But for some people like us, we all enjoy these type of like B movie schlocky B movie 50s 60s monster movies where it's like there's a larger priority on spectacle over substance. And we thought, and I guess for majority of us, I feel it's like this was enough to satisfy us. But
also, I like a lot of the human stuff in those movies too.
True,
And maybe that's just my side of it. And I really liked the humans. And I want to clarify what I said earlier. Like, oh, that's a Godzilla movie because we disregard the flaws. I didn't mean like, oh, there's these things that that you acknowledge as crap and you just ignore them. I'm mainly regarding like, how much time we spend really expositing every excruciating detail, not even excruciating, of the human's backstory. Like I feel like some of the characters that were marketed and you went in and you're like, oh, they really didn't get a lot of screen time or development, but then you're like, well, but he was just a soldier though, and he was just like, somebody to be a person in action scenes. I didn't need to know his whole life story. And I thought he was used really well. And I'm talking, of course, about Barnes, who's played by O'Shea Jackson Jr., who I really liked in the movie.
You know what?
But I thought he was going to be more of a protagonist and get, like more of a clearly defined arc. But in the movie, I didn't need that. Right. And that's the point that I think you and I are trying to make, is that, there are elements of these kinds of movies, how much time we spend, again, showing, every part of this guy's life that led him to deciding that he wanted to be around giant monsters during every second of his time.
The way I look at it is this: there's like a scale.
Let me finish though. Let me finish, and then showing us all of the action and them relating them to it. And I feel like this Godzilla movie does that some of the best of any monster movie, especially in a long time. And I feel like it goes back to a lot of the more classic movies in how well that it really pulls that off. But Dylan, go ahead.
Yeah, the way I look at it is this: there's like a scale, right? So in a perfect world, in an ideal world, all the Godzilla movies would have an impeccable, perfect balance between like engaging human drama and also really cool monster action. In a perfect world, we don't live in one of those. I don't know if you've noticed. This is Trump's America. It's not a perfect world. And so most movies are going to fall closer to one side of the scale than another. And if I have to choose, I'd rather take the really good kaiju action with maybe a little bit less endearing human story as opposed to like a boring movie that also has monsters in it. You know what I mean? Like
monsters.
Yeah, well, I feel like they did strike a balance though of
there's like there's a perfect medium, and sometimes you can hit it, but more often than not, you're going to fall on one side or the other, and that's fine.
This definitely is not 54.
And this is not GMK.
I like it better than GMK though.
Okay, interesting.
Big time.
That's
and I like the human stuff more too.
That's
wow,
the main.
okay.
Fuck you. No, I'm kidding. I watched GMK right before I went to see it too.
That's one of the main reasons that I didn't like Shin, is that I just thought it was a really fucking boring movie. You can tell me all day about how brilliant the allegory is and how the monster stuff is like a reinterpretation.
But you understand, Dylan, it's so fucking deep.
Yeah. Sure.
Is it deep enough though? Is it really?
Yeah. I mean, so everybody, if you could just pull Hano's cock out of your mouth for a second and listen.
I'm sorry. What did you say now, Dylan?
No, it's just.
Oh, what was that? That doesn't sound like a.
Anyway, enough about Boardroom Meeting, the movie. Andres, were you still giving your general thoughts?
I still like Shin Godzilla, by the way.
Okay, so yeah, I really did like it. I enjoyed it. I acknowledge the flaws, but they did not bother me as much. If they did bother you, that's perfectly fine. That's your opinion. Your opinion. Anyone's opinion is totally valid. And it's like, I just feel like for me, I left the movie completely satisfied enough to where I really want to go back and see it again and again. And I thought that this was like I felt like this was like the perfect way to bring back that old school mid-60s Showa era Godzilla film formula and bring it to the modern age. It's not for everybody.
Yeah.
Even among Godzilla fans, it's not for everybody. But
No.
I dug the hell out of it, and for me, that's all I care. That's all I care about.
Yeah, and it's fine. The movie can be divisive. That's fine. Me and Patrick
Movies usually should be.
Yeah.
Me and Patrick don't have to agree on King of the Monsters. It's fine. We'll always have Battle for Earth. You know what I mean?
and Patrick and David will always have Space Godzilla.
Oh yeah, Space Godzilla, Space Goji. O'Shea doesn't like Space Godzilla. That kind of made me cry a little bit.
I agree.
I don't like
I
Space
agree with
Godzilla.
him.
O'Shea is a smart
I can relate
man.
to him now.
Ice Cube raised him right.
So, yeah, where to even start with this movie? So, the first thing I wanted to mention was, like, the overall stylistic approach to 2019, because I feel like they took the majority of what 2014 established stylistically and just threw it out the window and kind of started from scratch. It's like they took the template, like the basic idea of 2014.
I didn't feel like that. I feel like
because I don't agree.
I felt like they just expanded it. I didn't feel like in what way were they throwing things out?
The way I feel like it's like, the soundtrack was different. The cast, with the exception of Serizawa and his assistant, was different. The overall visual style of the movie is different. Oh, the cinematography is roughly the same, especially when it comes to how they handle the fight scenes. But
I don't agree with that.
Well, for the most part,
I think there are some similar sequences.
Ideas, yeah. where it's like
But it wasn't all throughout, though, dude.
right. That's true, but it's like the idea that it's like instead of showing the monster fights uncut like it was in like the Showa era, here it's like the humans are always doing something, and so you're cutting back and forth between what the humans are doing, what the monsters are doing, and the monsters are mostly shot at a low angle from the humans' perspective to have an easier transition between the two of them, with very few wide shots of the monsters in action.
Yeah, but
And
I feel like
they mixed it way better, though, to the point where you don't even really notice that much.
True,
And when
true.
you do notice, you're like, oh, this is fucking cool. Like when
Yeah.
Ghidorah's heads are like slithering into frame, you're like, get this thing away.
that's true.
There's a
I never
difference.
said that was a bad thing. I mean, it bothered me in 2014, but I noticed this in King of the Monsters, and I was like, I know people are going to have a problem with this, but
That's
it's
fair.
not bothering me. And
I
even
see what you're saying.
James
Yeah,
Rolfe complained
there's a
about this
difference
in his
between-
review.
Yeah, I saw there's a difference between cutting away entirely, like 2014 did, and intercutting, which is what this movie is doing.
Uh-huh.
Toho used to do it all the time. It's that
Yeah.
it's that DBZ thing of like, no, we can't just watch Goku and Cell fight. You have to cut over to Krillin saying, "Oh, I hope they don't hit each other too hard" or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I feel like this was more in line with the best Godzilla movies, like Ghidorah, where you got like people shooting at each other when the
Yeah,
monsters
yeah.
are tearing stuff apart. Like that's what that's how I felt anyway.
That's
There
what
were
I mean, where
sequences
it's
in
like,
this movie that reminded me of like the beginning of Biollante, where like suddenly people are just shooting each other for 15 minutes, and you're like, "What's going on?"
I guess like the biggest departure stylistically was, I remember in earlier interviews where Gareth Edwards and his team was still on board to direct King of the Monsters. It was either Gareth Edwards or Max Borenstein mentioned like something along the lines of they were going to keep doing that Jaws approach.
Yeah, that was
to-
Gareth Edwards. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So it's like we're gonna keep doing this. We'll maybe have Ford back in the starring role. Obviously, Garrett's not here. Ford Brody's not here, and that whole keep the hide the monster away is certainly not here. And that's how I feel like this feels like a brand new movie. And it does expand.
But they still had that element in there, so I feel like they were kind of they showed you what they did in 2014,
Mm-hmm.
and then they went, now here's how we're gonna turn that into Toho Godzilla, and I feel like that's why this movie worked so well, because it was a great sequel to 2014,
Mm-hmm.
and a great adaptation of the middle to later Showa run of Godzilla in the 60s.
And I'm not saying like any of these changes are bad. I'm just saying like I noticed there's a stark difference between the execution of both movies.
I just don't think they were throwing things out though, like Dylan said. I because that's just how you open. So I just
Alright.
didn't think that was the approach.
I
But
guess for me,
I do wish that the fights.
we didn't mean to jump down your throat for semantics.
Yeah, I
we were just trying to get clarification.
I do wish that the fights were filmed a little bit more like what we got in Kong Skull Island. Like it's
Yeah.
fine. It's fine to have the close-ups and like the shots from the human POV, but I also would have liked a few more like wide shots of the monsters fighting. I feel like this movie was trying to do sort of a little bit of both. Like it was trying to synthesize the 2014
Both, yeah.
approach and the Kong Skull Island approach,
Mhm.
and I feel like maybe they should have gone a little bit further towards the Skull Island.
See, I almost feel like the ending shots, like not made up for that, but because they looked like that, we got enough of that sense when you had all the. You're gonna put spoilers in the title of this, right?
No,
When you have-
everyone, I feel like everyone has already watched this movie.
I know.
so-
I don't know. I don't know about that.
Okay,
based on how
let's
it's doing.
establish this is a spoiler review. Get out now. We already explained. We already gave our opinions on it.
When all the monsters
like
bowing in front of Godzilla. I thought that was a very like kind of Skull Island shot because it was daytime and we were seeing them all out in the open, and like just the sheer personality of that, like
Pacific Rim does that. There's like POV shots where you're down low and you're looking up at the Jaeger, but then there's also wide shots of him hitting a kaiju in the face with a ship.
I feel like Pacific Rim probably was, in terms of cinematography with the monster battles, it was more like Skull Island than it was either a Godzilla movie.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's got that mix of the two that
Yeah.
I like.
I'm not saying I couldn't have done with a few more wide shots of the monsters, but yeah, I feel like the balance that was struck here was real good. That's my point.
Another stylistic thing that, it does carry over from Godzilla from 2014 is that a lot of the action sequences take place in darkly lit environments. But I feel
Totally fair.
I like the execution here better, just because I love the use of color in this movie. You know, there's parts where everything's red, everything's green, everything's blue, everything's dark with yellow highlights. Again, this was one of those things where I was saying to myself, I know some people are gonna complain that it's too damn dark, but I thought it was, you know, for that stylistic darkly lit direction they were going for, I didn't mind it one bit. I mean, I enjoyed it when they used that dark style in Pacific Rim, and I liked it here. Yes, I would have preferred something that's more like brightly lit, like Pacific Rim Uprising. As much as I hate that movie, I do think the battles were executed pretty well in the daylight. I definitely liked Kong Skull Island with its brightly lit fight scenes. I would have liked something like that. Hopefully we'll get it for King Godzilla vs. Kong, but for what they were going for with King of the Monsters, I really liked how the fights were executed. And I could see people having a problem, but I personally didn't.
Next.
I'm with you.
Yeah, I mean, having a fight take place at night isn't necessarily a problem as long as I can tell what the fuck is going on, you know?
Yeah.
And in this movie, I could tell what the fuck was going on.
I also felt like it was more of a stylistic choice and less of like,
A budget.
well, it'll be because you know Godzilla 2014 definitely had a lower budget too, and I feel like that was also a big part of it. You know,
So
was
there's
that
like a story reason baked into it because wherever King Ghidorah goes in this movie, there's like a giant storm that follows him around. Because
yeah,
notice,
I know that bugged people too, but I thought that was like awesome.
you know, that's great. Like they always need to add more powers to these kaiju's arsenals as you move along. I mean, that's happened.
It's a nice way to change up his attack from the Showa series from what Rodan does, because you know they gave Rodan his Showa like windstorms that he leaves behind, but that's what Ghidorah did in the Showa series too. And I like that they kind of evolved it where it's like, oh no, well he creates thunderstorms and lightning storms, and it's like, oh, there you go. That's the way to do it.
And
That's a ticket!
And notice after Godzilla kills Ghidorah, it's not dark anymore. It gets light all of a sudden and then the other kaiju show up. And my interpretation of that was because he kills Ghidorah and then the storm cloud fucking dissipates. Or maybe the sun just rose. I don't know. Like I said, I've only seen the movie once.
Maybe
I think you're right. No, because it's always confusing in movies, isn't it? When like there's a storm and then it's daytime all of a sudden. You're like, oh, is it night? Is it day? And it's like, no, it was just raining and now it's not.
It wasn't late when Millie Bobby Brown went to the stadium. It was like middle of the day. So I'm pretty sure all that darkness was just from Ghidorah.
Probably.
And
it's also possible maybe she got there and like I'm sorry, Andres.
No, it's all right.
People in your comment sections always hate me because I cut you off. They
How dare you?
I know. I don't. But I'm apologizing for it now, and hopefully that'll excuse me for it for the rest of the video.
Somehow that makes it better.
I think she got there. Maybe she got there like when the sun was going down, and by the time Ghidorah got there, it was like maybe midnight. Maybe by the time. So maybe by the time the storm clouds faded, like the sun had already come up. We don't know the timeline.
Funny enough, this also happens.
I think
in
the
Godzilla.
Storm definitely.
I was gonna say this also happens in Godzilla movies a lot, where like they fight apparently throughout the entire night, and then by the time the fight's over, then the sun rises.
Yeah, it's a very common Godzilla trope. I almost wonder if it was an intentional nod to it. Probably not, though.
No.
It happened in Final Wars, right? He's fighting Kaiser Ghidorah, and then when he goes off into the water, the sun is rising.
Yeah. I think that is more. It's like night to day, though, because it was nighttime when he got to Tokyo in that movie.
Yeah, it was already pretty late, so clearly they just fought all night long.
But it's possible that a similar situation happened here as well, like it was already going to be nighttime and the storm cloud arose. Look, somebody's playing video games. They need to do it lower.
My bad. I'm raging right now.
Well, you need to do it lower. Or not at all.
My bad.
Stop it. Get some help.
I don't mean to interrupt your video games and Andres's line, but I'm just trying to get my opinions out there. That's all.
This is why the only
Fine.
time
What if I let the aliens kill me? How about that?
why the only time he ever contributes to the conversation is when Andres asks him a question. The rest of the time he's playing video games. I love it.
That is very accurate. Very true.
And let's see, is there anything else like stylistically that's there that we could comment on?
Oh, it's a much more mythological take on Godzilla.
Yeah, that's a very big thing, and that's another thing I noticed that they expanded upon. They kind of mentioned vaguely that in the first movie that Godzilla is simply an alpha predator who just has this intense rivalry, and he's considered like one of the strongest monsters of all time. Here it's like they take the idea of King of the Monsters, they take the idea of the alpha predator, and they turn him into a literal king that is not only worshipped by man, but is also respected by other monsters. And this leads to a bit of a what do you call it, inconsistency between what's established in the first movie with this movie. Mostly with the Muto, where with the Mutos, it's like, from what we could tell in the first movie, the Mutos can give less of a shit about Godzilla's title and just went right after him. They established that these monsters have an intense rivalry and they hunt each other, similar to like the Skullcrawlers and Kong. But in this movie, it seems like being the king of the monsters, you automatically get that respect, or you have to.
Yeah, but I think the idea was that.
Respect.
Oh, I just did it again. I'm sorry, damn.
You have to earn that respect, and then the monsters will literally bow down to you with no hostility whatsoever. So it's kind of funny seeing another scene. It's cool seeing another Muto come back, but it's also kind of funny that this Muto is willing to be subservient to Godzilla, given what his cousins were doing in the last movie.
Yeah, Dylan brought that up in one of our conversations.
I really like that scene, and I love what it implies and what it means, and that it's just the literalization of Godzilla's title.
Yeah,
but the Muto being there just makes no goddamn sense.
All right.
I was also under the impression that they were like extinct or presumed extinct, like.
Yeah, but aren't they all though?
Because the way they breed, like the fact that that thing exists is a problem. We need to do something about it. Like.
Yeah, but if there's only one of them, it's like Zilla in the cartoon. And if there's only one, then there's no problem. It can't breed by itself.
But in the Aftershock comic, it's like the Muto Prime lays both the male and female, so it's kind of like an alien queen from Alien.
I didn't read that, so I don't know.
And so what if that Muto can like become a Muto Prime in the same way that like, you know what I mean? Like it can potentially.
Then Godzilla will have to kill it then.
And it's interesting that
and he will.
My friend Steve pointed out that it's slightly different variant design that's different from how the female Muto looked in the last movie, where the Mutos had like red visor eyes, but this one clearly had white eyes with a red streak behind him on his head. And his body structure is much more pointed and or her body structure is much more pointed and jagged. So initially I thought, oh, they're just reusing the character model from the last movie, made to save time and money. But no, it's like it's a different design, a slightly different variant design. So who knows what this new Muto is supposed to be like?
Yeah, I have no idea how.
Here's my point though.
We're
talking about how it's inconsistent with 2014.
Not
only do I think that was intentional, but I think they built to that in the story very well. Because the death of Ghidorah and the sheer arrival of Ghidorah in the modern day shook up the status quo like a motherfucker. Monsters became the dominant life form again. That was the idea. At least that's what I took from the movie. And the fact that Godzilla killed Ghidorah changed up the dynamic, because now he was the unquestioned alpha predator, at least until the next movie. So, and the fact that all those monsters, they were coming after Ghidorah, they were hearing him, they're like, oh, we're going to fucking kill all these humans that are overrunning the earth. They get there, they find fucking Godzilla just in the dust of Ghidorah, and the idea was that from that point on, all right, this guy's in charge, and if we do anything, it's gonna have to be under his fucking watch. That changed everything. So I think the fact that it was inconsistent with the last movie from that side was intentional. Obviously, the kind of way Godzilla was viewed as more of a literal god. They took that a lot more literally from 2014, where there's just that one line where Serizawa says, where Graham says, a god for all intents and purposes. And we see all the cave paintings in that movie too.
And I guess now, is an alpha predator, can anyone be considered an alpha predator, or can an alpha predator only be considered one single king? Like,
an alpha predator is just a class.
There can be more, because they're warred, because they refer to Godzilla and King Ghidorah as rival alphas.
Yeah, they're rival kings.
So I guess Kong is another rival alpha?
Yeah, definitely. I think that seems to be the idea of the next movie, don't you?
So I guess like the monsters have to be ranked by alphas and betas and gammas.
No, they have to fight and prove prove their titles.
All right.
I thought that was always the deal.
See, you've got the Chad kaiju and the Virgin kaiju.
It's just like it seems like they were in the first movie. They were establishing the title of alpha as just like a natural predator, like an alpha predator. Like anyone.
I think they were.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking. Like that's not a title you earn. That's just a title that's inherited by nature. And I guess they changed up what that means for this movie.
Mind you, when they refer to King
I don't know
Ghidorah,
what they did though.
when they refer to Godzilla and King Ghidorah as rival alphas, though, you have to keep in mind that that's before they figured out that King Ghidorah is an alien, which I'm so happy they kept.
That was
really
well done.
I love the idea that they called him an invasive species. It's like, oh, that's genius.
Yeah, well, and that was why he was a rival king. He was gonna, reclaim the Earth to be his own. But it was so. I think you nailed it with what you said. Is the idea of them being alpha predators is just a natural classification. Kong's an alpha predator. They're all alpha predators in some fucking sense. But Godzilla's the king of the monsters, and Ghidorah could have been the king of the monsters. They have to prove it to each other. So, they can all be alpha predators. I don't think that's a title. Again, I think that's just a label you smack on a scientific fucking journal. The king of the monsters, that's different. That's something that you gotta earn. And I think that's what this movie was about. And it may be, I think it maybe unquestionably does that the best of having Godzilla not only earn that title, but it meant something. And I really enjoyed that.
If somebody who had never seen a Godzilla movie asked you, so hey, why is Godzilla considered king of the monsters? Why is he the baddest bitch in the room? Show him this movie.
Yeah,
that is true. Yeah, because they would call him the king of the monsters, but it's like in the Showa series, even Heisei series, not so much Heisei series, but it's like it never really seemed like Godzilla was any stronger, and maybe like slightly stronger than most of the monsters in the series. But here it's like this, like from my experience, it felt like this was the first time where Godzilla deserves the title of king of the monsters.
Yeah, when he was on Monster Island back in the late Showa series, I think the idea there was that he was in charge. If anything bad happened, he would step in. But I also I think that people take it, I think this movie took it just literally enough, and that some people take it too literally. He doesn't need to, be sitting down writing laws and being like, oh, you can't.
Hey, you guys, stop fighting. So says Godzilla.
Can't go there. His purpose is to make sure that the Earth doesn't blow up. He's there to make sure that the Earth is going to be there for him to live on, and for all the other creatures too, if that happens to be so. And that is very Showa Godzilla, and they fucking nailed that.
Yeah, and another thing I found interesting that they expanded upon slightly changed stylistically from 2014 is that the relationship between Godzilla and the humans, where in the first movie, it seems like Godzilla was very apathetic towards the humans and it's like really paid them no attention. I guess like majority of the time he doesn't even realize they're there. He's just more concerned with killing his prey or his rival or whoever. And with this movie, they established that humans actually have had a long-standing relationship with Godzilla, almost symbiotic relationship with each other, leading to the humans worshipping Godzilla. They provide a home for him, give him his own fucking throne. And so it's like Godzilla actually has a connection to these humans, and that's why he never directly attacks them. It's interesting. I would say it's a little inconsistent with the bridge sequence from 2014, but I guess you can just sum that up to, Godzilla just...
He had to get in there, though.
Yeah, he did pay attention.
He had to get in there.
Like, excuse me, coming through.
Yeah, but no, but again, he had to get... I think he's also like, I gotta get... Again, there was no other way for him to get in there unless he fucking walked all the way around. He was also trying to ambush the male Muto when it was flying in, so he had to stay in the water, so he had to go in that way.
Right.
So anyway...
he never really...
Again, I feel like it's an intentional development, again, as opposed to an inconsistency, because he had just reemerged in the modern era. He has no relationship with these humans.
Sure.
And he's just trying to do his job and go home. In this movie, because of the level of the threat and because the Earth is changing now, because the monsters are reemerging, he has to. There's that clear scene where he and Kyle Chandler fucking look at each other, and it's that moment of we all have jobs to do now. It's not just you guys watching me kick Ghidorah's ass.
Right. I do like, again, I really like that development. I just noticed that this was clearly something that wasn't that the filmmakers of the 2014 film, this was something they clearly did not have in mind when making 2014.
Yeah.
Well, sure.
But again, I think it's an intentional development on the filmmakers of this movie's part.
Right. I agree with you. I agree with you. I just find it interesting. It's like the people behind the 2014 movie had a completely different vision for a more like realistic, more subtle take on Godzilla, while the people behind the 2019 movie took what was seen in the first movie and expanded upon that by going in a more less realistic, more fantastical, more literal take on Godzilla.
Did it feel unnatural to you, though, is I think what I'm driving at?
That's
a little
fine.
bit, but I didn't mind it.
But
All
when you're
right.
dealing with science fiction,
I didn't feel unnatural to me. It felt like we didn't know as nearly as much as we know now, and now we do.
when you're dealing with science fiction, particularly of the giant fucking monster variety, subtlety can only go so far. At a certain point, you kind of have to say, all right, these things are here, they exist. I think we can throw subtlety out the window. You know, it's like what Marvel did. You know, you watch the first Iron Man movie, and it's bizarre to think where we've come. You know what I mean?
True.
It's like even if in that case there was like an idea of where they might be going, as opposed to this where it seems like it was more of a making it up as you go along scenario. Even still, it's like you start really simple and grounded, so that you can build up to the crazier shit later on. And it
totally felt natural to me. It felt like what Marvel did, even though it wasn't as intentional. Fair enough.
And there's groundwork in Skull Island. I feel like Skull Island is actually like a perfect little bridge between the two because it's more grounded than this is, but it starts to introduce some more of those fantastical elements that sort of take over in this movie.
Yeah.
It's very
I think that's a good point, especially because of the way the people of Skull Island worship the monsters as gods.
True.
Yeah, and it's really interesting that they gave Godzilla this underground
Atlantis, essentially.
Yeah, that was cool.
He's basically what Megalon was in Godzilla vs. Megalon
or
now.
Gamera.
Yeah, no, it's very high stake Gamera still, but it's still a little different though. I mean, it's not like those people made him to clean up their mess though. He was already there.
Yeah.
They were just like, how are we gonna not get killed by this thing while also benefiting from it?
Yeah.
And I like that. It's to say it's better is obviously relative. They're different things, but for Godzilla, it works because back in the 90s, they were going to do like an Atlantis thing with that Godzilla too, but he was supposed to be genetically engineered by them, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that part of me
and
wonders
that's too Gamera. That's too Gamera. This is just enough.
Part of me wonders if that was like an intentional nod to that unused Godzilla concept.
Possibly.
Like the idea of doing an Atlantis.
Like cryptozoological, extremes being made canon with this universe where giant monsters are a thing.
I wouldn't put it past
It's possible because the writer of that script is writing Godzilla vs. Kong, so he probably said, "Hey, what if we do this?"
I'm not down about that. I'm not down with Terry Rossio writing this movie.
Well, he's only one of the writers.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. I'm not crazy.
I'm not crazy about '94 Godzilla either. So hopefully that doesn't bleed in.
I'm also not crazy about the choice of director, even though I haven't seen any of his work. But just from what I've heard, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how that turns out.
It's always a gamble when you get an indie director.
At least he's got the passion. So we can only hope he has the execution.
He definitely does. He was at the Godzilla-thon.
Oh yeah, you took pictures with him.
Oh, you met the guy. Fucking Jesus Christ!
Yeah,
I
met the dude. Yeah, he was there, just out of nowhere.
How do you smell in person?
He's got the passion clearly, so I think we just have to wait and see if the execution is there. I'm a little worried about them, maybe dumping more money into reshoots. I don't think that's the way to fix a movie that underperforms.
They're already delaying that movie apparently.
Yeah.
Well, it's a maybe right now. It's a maybe.
Yeah, I hope they don't. I don't think it's necessary.
Just go full force with what they got.
If it's as good as if it's as good as this is, I'm very happy. But if it's even 3/4 as good as this is, no, I'm serious. And people will be like, "Oh, you're just like the DC." You, David, you'll be like, "Oh, you're just like the DC fans, fucking liking Suicide Squad." I did enjoy elements of Suicide Squad, by the way.
Yeah,
But I also think this is a massively better film and on every level. And
wait, I'm confused. Where did the comparisons to Suicide Squad come from?
because you were comparing some Godzilla fans' reactions to DC fans.
Are you referring?
Oh, okay, I get it.
When we first talked about it. Maybe I shouldn't be referring to our private conversation. That's my bad.
No.
But you know, it's the only time I talked to you about the movie. To be fair, prior to this, so that's why I brought it up.
No, here's what I was trying to say, because I don't think you guys saw my review for BVS, but well, here's what I was trying to say, because back when Suicide Squad came from, when it was released, you know, there was a lot of arguments from the DC fanboys, and even Margot Robbie, who plays fucking Harley Quinn.
Yeah.
The movie was made for the fans, which is okay, but the problem with that is that you start alienating a general audience.
That's not the thing that made that movie work, because it didn't work. So it didn't work for that movie.
But I'm a fan.
That was their excuse, though, is what I'm saying.
Well, it wasn't a good enough excuse.
Yeah.
But I'm a fan, and that movie's not good. Like it's
Yeah.
it's enjoyable bad.
It has yeah. Well, that's how I feel about it. It's got some good elements, and the fan service is definitely good.
Like it's not BVS. It's a fun time, but it's not a good. I just feel like we're not paying the proper respect by not referring to it by its true title, which is, of course, Oscar Award winner Suicide Squad.
You're right, Dylan. But this movie, this movie is not a movie that's limping along by the excuse of fan service. I don't think. I think this is a movie that works with what it set out to do on its own, and then it just happens to have a whole bunch of fucking Godzilla fan service in there.
There are so many great callbacks. There's a shot in this movie that is right out of the original Rodan, where it's like that classic. It's that classic Star Wars like X-wing cockpit shot, and the guy with the fucking flight helmet with the hose coming out of the mouth, and he's like looking around. And then he ejects and Rodan eats him. That's fucking great.
Actually, I thought I was taken from the giant claw.
Yeah, it's a nod to the giant claw, not Rodan.
No, there are shots in Rodan. Where you're in the cockpit and like it's the fucking pilot.
Okay.
Yeah, we know Rodan doesn't eat anybody in that, out of a cockpit.
Yeah, the part where Rodan eats the guy isn't from the original Rodan, but right before that, right before he ejects himself, when you're just in the cockpit with him and he's like looking around all frantically, that's like straight out of the original Rodan.
And the way he was flying around was so satisfying to see in these kind of special effects and with this kind of budget, because of what you imagine from what you see in the original, of the things that you like, the little pieces of him that you see, and how fast he is and how strong the gusts of wind are. So what they did with him in this was just so satisfying on that level.
I thought going in, just knowing how big of a fan of Doherty is of the original Rodan movie, I thought going into the movie that there might be a chance that there was going to turn out to be two of them, but that probably would have been too similar to what we just had with the Mutos, so it's fine.
And I guess it's like a bit.
It would have been too expensive too, because
it would have been.
Right now
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say that right now, a lot of industry specialists are kind of arguing, what is the actual budget of the movie? Is it 170 or is it $200 million?
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't cheap.
Right.
I'll tell you that right now.
You can tell, though. It is a beautiful fucking movie.
Yeah, no, the special effects are awesome.
It's very pretty.
And the cinematography's good. They got a good cast. It's not like they got a bunch of fucking nobodies. You know, they got a really good cast who sell this material well, I think.
Before we move on, can we linger on Rodan a little bit, because I have some thoughts.
I got a bone to pick with that flying fuck.
Going back to the thing that Anders asked me earlier, what did I expect out of the movie?
Right. Okay.
Michael Dougherty said that Rodan was supposed to be a rogue in this movie, where his allegiances are kind of like,
Yeah.
But but he becomes Ghidorah and Godzilla's bitch.
I see it as like they characterize him like the way I saw him like a Starscream type of character. Like,
oh yeah, very much so.
Like, yes, my Lord Ghidorah, please do not hurt me.
Yeah.
He also felt a little like Showa Geigen in that way. But yeah, but that's what a rogue does in this kind of situation, where it's like, two big,
yeah,
powerful people vying for control. They're just going to go with wherever the wind's blowing, literally.
Right.
Well, what's really funny is I know there are quite a few Rodan fans online that are really upset with what they did to Rodan.
Yeah, me being one of them, because here's how I thought he was going to be interpreted. I thought he was going to attack everyone. Because I thought that was the definition of a rogue that Michael Jordy was trying to describe, because...
He did, though.
In the
He did
trailer-
attack Ghidorah.
Yeah, but he submitted to his rule, which...
Because he would have died otherwise.
The only person he doesn't actually fight is Godzilla, which is...
Yeah, I was disappointed by that. I'll give you that point. They could have thrown that in there for sure.
Because I also thought there should have been a moment during that Godzilla Ghidorah fight right before the Oxygen Destroyer thing happens. There should have been a moment where we see Rodan like decide to start working with Ghidorah. Like he should have come in and started attacking Godzilla too, and then have it be 2-on-1. I think that would have sold that a little bit better, because when you get to Washington D.C., it's like, oh, Rodan's with Ghidorah now. Okay, you know.
There is one really good shot. It's on a monitor, unfortunately, but it's a really good shot still, and it fills it. You know, he fills up most of the frame with the color, and it's really good. Where you see Rodan bowing in front of Ghidorah, and that's why you see
Yeah,
that
on the
one shot of
mountain,
Ghidorah bowing in front of
And see, I
Godzilla
wish
at
that-
the end.
I wish that had just happened and not been on a monitor, because I completely missed that.
There was a little bit too much of the ancillary monster stuff that was shown on monitors, and that was a little too 2014 for my liking. So I'll give you that, Andres. That was one thing they carried over that they shouldn't have. But you know what else, though? That's very Destroy All Monsters. Destroy All Monsters does that too, and it's a kind of a problem in that movie.
And for me, it's like
I wonder if it was a reference.
I wish we
everything's
could've
a
gotten at
reference.
least-
It's like
It could be in
JoJo's
that
Bizarre
case.
Adventure. Everything's a JoJo reference.
I wish we could have gotten at least a few shots of the new monsters destroying shit without it being on monitors and whatnot. Especially the fucking Elephant Man. I fucking love him. That fucking
Behemoth.
Behemoth, yeah.
Yeah, Behemoth
Terrible.
is awesome.
terrible name. They need to workshop a new name. But I love that boy. He's my favorite. My favorite, probably like American kaiju. Like
Is he your Titanosaurus of this franchise?
maybe like he doesn't have that like Cloverfield syndrome that all the other American design monsters have.
Just
He's
like-
a big-
He does, I guess, a little bit because he's on all fours, but he doesn't look like the Cloverfield monster, so you don't notice it.
a ground sloth with tusks.
He looks like he could be a guy in a suit. I
But
think
he's
that's
a
one of the
big-
cool things about
He's a
him.
big fucking meaty monster. Like he looks like he could fight Kong. Like he has
Oh,
a
big time.
he has a gorilla body. Like he's on all fours because he's like walking on his big fucking knuckles. He doesn't.
I mean, it
even
looks
have
like if he wanted to, he could, give Godzilla a good fight, but Godzilla would win.
Or you just give him a good old, a big old bear hug.
Maybe they're just.
Well,
close. We don't know.
Well,
We
at
don't
least,
touch.
well, at least you could see how Behemoth looks like. Methuselah, you have no idea what he actually looks like. The mountain
the
kaiju
spider.
from Germany.
Oh, that one, yeah, you'll get 2 shots of that.
Yeah, most
Yeah, I don't
people
know.
assume that he's like this like turtle monster thingamabob thingy.
That would be a nice nod to Gamera and also Cometus.
Yeah. Oh, apparently in the concept art they just shoved Gamera in there.
I heard that they just did that as like placeholders for the
Yeah,
monsters
yeah.
they hadn't designed yet.
So maybe
Because
it's
people were freaking out, like, oh, they were gonna do them. It's like, no, they weren't.
No,
They
yeah.
just put them in there
It's
so
like,
that
we
way
want
they
a
could
turtle
design other
monster,
monsters.
So we're just gonna put this turtle monster in here just because we can. Although,
I like
It's weird that they were able to put that in the art book.
Yeah,
like you
I'm
think like
surprised they
fucking
can sell-
Katakawa would be like,
right, because they're literally profiting off Gamera's image technically.
yeah.
I like
I mean,
how,
Gigan, fine because it's Toho, but
But they need to pay royalties to Gigan and Anguirus.
I like how they were like, hey, you know what? If we slap some tentacles on Kamanga, we won't have to pay for Kamanga. So let's.
I thought that was supposed to be like a souped up version of the spider from Skull Island. Maybe that's just me reading into it too much, but that was.
Skull Island does not have tentacles.
Right, I thought so
Yes,
too.
it
until I
does.
noticed
It kind
no,
of does.
it
The little
doesn't.
things that
He doesn't. He has.
reach down, the little feelers.
Those are legs.
They had
No, it's not the legs. No. Watch the movie again. He's got little things that come out. I did recently.
There, he has like these little claw things, like these little crab
Yeah,
claws.
he's got claws at the front. I know about the claws.
Yeah,
If you're
They're-
talking about the
they're-
things,
they're
if you're
little
talking about those things that he
come
grabs, if you're talking about those things that he grabs Eazy-E with, those are not tentacles. They're like some sort of. They kind of remind me of like that like resin stuff that the xenomorphs like excrete. You know, like it's clearly some sort of hard, like stringy substance.
They look very tentacle-like to me watching the movie.
All right, I found it. I see the image of the mother long legs, as it's officially known as, and I don't see any tentacles whatsoever. Then again, it's a little blurry, but Everything else I see is fan art or fan
On the
models.
bottom.
Yeah.
Since we're on the subject
I'm not
of
fighting over
the,
it.
Are you
But it's
fucking
there.
eating now?
how did you know?
Because I can hear you chomping away.
Yeah, well, you're looking at it from the front in this picture. You're not going to see them.
Let's see.
They're on the bottom, but they're there. They might. I think they actually come out of it too. Like there's like a little thing that they excrete out of.
Yeah,
It's not like
that's what I'm saying.
full
It's,
of a mouthful.
I don't think it's like
it doesn't
a
have
like a
Zoidberg-
resin though that
Zoidberg
hardens.
phase.
right. It's an excretion. It's not like an actual tentacle. I don't think.
No, I don't like I don't know about an excretion. I don't know if it's like an ooze. It looked like a hard thing to me that was coming out and then pulling it up.
Like it seemed to me like this spider, this was what it
Godzilla.
evolved. This is what it evolved instead of web, so that it could like grab people from below.
But
Mm.
I guess like I do really like the behemoth. I can't make an opinion at all on Methuselah, but for the Scylla, the spider, he's probably like the least memorable one of all because it's just a spider with tentacles.
He was very mist monster, very like monster, monster from the mist.
Since we're on the subject of the, I guess the non-Toho MonsterVerse Titans, I feel like I'm gonna be the buzzkill out of all of us here.
Do it. Pull the trigger.
Been the trend so far.
I'm slightly disappointed with the designs of these Titans. Not just the designs, but also the names, because
Don't you say nothing about my beautiful elephant boy.
they have these generic names like
they're-
behemoths.
They're all based off of like religious monsters, like Typhoon.
But you could do better. You could do better than that, though, if you're going with like behemoth. Like call it Ganesh or something. I don't know. Like
They probably do have a Ganesh there, because there's a few that are named after these religious gods, like Abaddon. There's some cryptozoological names like Bunyip, that sauropod cryptid Mobo Kimi.
Michaelium Mbembe, yeah, he's in there.
There's a Titan named that in the movie.
And yeah, I know that behemoth. I know that the name behemoth comes from the Bible, but that also it's also confusing because you have the giant behemoth. That's like a whole other giant monster.
I didn't think that they were referencing that, but all right.
I mean, it could have been. I mean, this movie is full of references outside of the Toho movies. There's the giant claw, so the giant behemoth could have been a reference.
One of my favorite references is that all the soldiers are named after special effects people, like Harryhausen, Stan Winston, and who's the guy who did Werewolf in London?
Rick Baker?
Rick Baker, yeah. They were all named. The soldiers were all named after
Really?
these guys. Yeah.
Really? Wait, was that something that you had to look at the credits, or because I don't remember that at all in the movie?
In that one scene, the black chick, the bald chick, she like calls them all by name and tells them to get to the monitors.
Oh,
Yeah, and admittedly, this was that was shown to me by my friend Garayan. He pointed it out to me. It's like, oh, neat.
Again, was like the name Barnes supposed to be someone? Because that was Ice Cube's son's name.
Bucky Barnes. No.
Oh, here we go. Yeah.
Okay.
So we had Corporal Winston, Lieutenant Botten, Rob Botten from The Thing, Sergeant Baker, Officer Phil Tibbet from Star Wars, and Officer Harryhausen.
Officer Harryhausen. Yeah.
That's very on the nose. I if they had like shouted that out in the movie, that would have been too much.
Yeah.
But
I bet you anyone these days who is named Harryhausen.
Did they in
gonna
that
get
one scene where she was like sending them to the Mazers? Did she say like Harryhausen? Because I don't remember that.
I didn't hear it, but
I saw it 3 times. I don't remember that.
I can just now imagine like anyone who has the name of Harryhausen, like in this day and age, he's going to get he or she's going to get a second look from everybody.
I don't know.
It's a hell of a name.
So
I don't
I
know.
guess you could name your future son Harryhausen.
I'll think about
You can
doing
tell
that
it
as a middle
to him
name.
when he's born.
I understood that reference.
And let's see, anything else stylistically, a stylistic approach wise?
Have we touched up on this? The monster choreography is vastly faster than 2014, because 2014 they were trying to go for a more grounded thing.
Yes.
Where Godzilla moves more like a bear in that film, but in this film, he just
He's more humanoid.
moves super.
He's
more
upright
humanoid.
posture.
Yeah. I kind of like that, but I like the choreography for both 2014 and King of the Monsters. 2014 mainly because there's this sense of nitty grittiness about it that I felt was lacking in the Godzilla films.
Now, see, what I like about it is that you got a whole lot of people who do not like the fact that these monsters are CG now, and I get it. I miss the practical effects as much as the next guy, but this is the world we're living in, and if you're going to do these monsters in CG, then you need to justify them being in CG by doing things you could never fucking pull off with suits, and they do that all the time in this fucking movie. There's
When
that
Godzilla comes out of the ice.
Yeah, there's that moment right from the start where Godzilla fires his atomic breath, and Ghidorah just swerves, he just moves his head apart, his head's apart, and dodges the breath, and then he shoots back with the lightning. That would have been so hard to pull off with the puppet heads, and fucking strings and shit. It would have been fucking crazy. The moment, my favorite moment in any of the fights in this movie, when Ghidorah uses his right and left heads to grab Rodan by the wings, and then he blasts him in the chest with his middle head.
Well, I think that could kind of sort of be achieved with practical effects, but it'd be difficult.
You could achieve, again, exactly. All of these things would be so hard to do.
Mm-hmm.
And now that we're in CG, the advantage to that, there are pros and cons.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest pro is that you can just go all out now with the monster action, and they can just do whatever the fuck you want.
Mm-hmm.
You can make the design as big and bulky and crazy as you want and not run into the high save problem of it not being able to move its legs. You just have it stand in place for an hour spamming laser beams.
I'm trying to walk over there, but I can't. The suit's too bulky.
Destroy a waddling into battle.
But again, they struck a balance, man. It still felt like Godzilla action. It didn't suddenly feel like Transformers. It felt like the weight, because that's what I like about those old Godzilla movies, is feeling the weight of those, fucking people in giant suits slamming into each other.
Yeah, and
I don't know, man. They managed to pull it off in CG. Maybe it was the mocap this time. Maybe the mocap really helped that feel.
That moment where Godzilla falls over and then he falls into the ice,
he blows up that building with his breath, just like in 2000. That was fucking awesome.
He looks like a dude in a suit in that moment. He falls into the ice. I saw this movie with my cousin and she started laughing. She said he fell down like a little boy, and it's true. He tips over and falls into the ice.
Did you like the show Aurora in that moment? Oh, it was so good.
The one thing the biggest advantages for having mocap actors is they finally gave Ghidorah's heads different personalities. Another brilliant decision I thought was made, and I know that there were 3 mocap actors for each of Ghidorah's heads, and I know D-Man 1954 has done interviews with 1 or 2 of those actors.
He interviewed Alan Maxson, who is the right head, I think. I can't remember. I know for a fact that Jason Lyles is the middle head.
His right or our right? That's the confusing thing.
Ghidorah's
that's confusion.
we're talking about Ghidorah's right head or the right head of Ghidorah that I'm seeing.
Because stage right is the dumb.
Wait a minute. If you want, I could check because I'm on Facebook and I can check Alan Maxon's Facebook.
I would go by Ghidorah's point of view, though.
Yeah.
If I mean,
everybody loves the AK. A lot of fans are falling in love with the left head, or as Michael Dougherty likes to call him, Kevin.
Yeah, the one that licks up bits of dead people in the middle. One's like, "What the fuck are you doing? You fucking stupid!" That was maybe the best moment in the entire film when he bites the horn. He's like, "Get in gear! We gotta fuck up Godzilla."
I like to call that one It. That's the name of the dumb.
That Lion King meme is great.
Oh yeah, totally. There's already there's 3 memes I love that's come out of this movie. 1, Ghidorah's left head. 2, Rodan's being everyone's bitch. 3, the Mothra Godzilla shipping.
Oh, it's so hot.
Oh, that's messed up.
I love
That's messed up, right?
It's amazing.
They nailed that. Because it felt like, you know what it felt like to me? It felt like we've seen Godzilla fight Mothra so many times in the old movies, and we know that really they should be on the same side, kind of. Mm-hmm. So let's just do it and have it make sense. And almost make it feel like they had all this history together in the Showa series, or just even in prehistory, that felt endearing to me as a Godzilla fan, so that worked for me
Oh,
too.
yeah, totally.
It's
Like,
an
the
interesting
idea
history.
that-
I feel like they've been enemies as many times as they've been allies. It's interesting. Mothra and Godzilla.
Well, how many times have they been? So like Ghidra, destroy all monsters, kind of.
yeah.
Because
Not Sea Monster, not Sea Monster.
No.
Because
That's
Mothra
it.
in the old continuity is kind of what Godzilla is in this continuity. She's like the hero who's around to make sure that nature stays in balance.
No,
Whereas-
she's protecting her island. She's a little more Kong.
Whereas
In the Heisei series, she's more like that.
Godzilla is more like, Godzilla just gonna do what Godzilla gonna do.
Right.
He's like Venom. He really needs an Eminem song.
I feel like maybe they had that kind of history though, like millions of years ago. Like they had that moment where it's like, I'm Godzilla, I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do, and Mothra's like, no, piece of the earth, blah blah blah. Then Ghidorah showed
Shut
up in
up, hippie.
prehistory. Yeah, and I feel like that.
Love me.
So I feel like that's why their relationship works so well. And for people who don't know Godzilla, maybe they wouldn't, they probably wouldn't have that. But because of that mysterious prehistory period that we know so little about, I just feel like this movie allows you to use your imagination in a way that I feel like movies should.
Yeah, it gives you
I
just
think they
enough-
nailed that.
It gives you just enough to know what's going on with their relationship, but leaves enough open for like the imagination to do wonders.
Absolutely. I feel like a lot of the backstory with prehistory was maybe expecting to see a flashback.
Yeah.
I'm almost kind of glad they didn't though.
It's really funny
Is-
because speaking of that, sorry to interrupt you, man.
No. You have.
Oh, how
your-
the tables
your
have
cha-
turned.
It's your channel. It's your
Okay,
channel.
So the idea that like Mothra has had this like the idea of like having a flashback to Godzilla and Mothra's relationship, some artist actually did that years before any trailer came out for this movie.
I remember something like that.
And
No,
it-
the Godzilla Mothra ship is not a new thing. It's just picked up way more traction because of this movie. Like, I've been seeing Mothra Godzilla Rule 34 for years.
heck, Matt Frank made one like way early in his career
Yeah,
before
Matt-
he did anything.
Matt Smith did this shit back in the day. I feel like Doherty knew
Matt Smith?
Smith.
Oh my god! He's
I
been
think
doing Godzilla Rule 34 art? I gotta find this.
Did I say Matt Smith?
You
Fuck.
sure did, homie.
Matt Frank. Jesus Christ. Matt Frank. I feel like Doherty, or again, it's in the script, so whoever wrote the script, not necessarily Doherty. I feel like they knew that. I feel like they knew that this was a thing, and that they threw that line in there as like a jokey like nod to it. The weird thing is that a lot of people seem to have taken it as canon. A lot of people seem to have taken the line where O'Shea Jackson Jr. says, so like Godzilla and Mothra are like a thing, and they
Yeah.
completely ignored the line right after that,
Yeah.
where Thomas Middleditch is like, symbiotic relationship.
Mothra and Godzilla just don't want the Earth to blow up together. That's kind of it,
I feel like they specifically, I'm not sure how that dude even came to that conclusion. It's like, no, you fuck.
Well, it's because she calls her Queen of the Monsters.
So like, where does Godzilla stick it? Like,
And I
Yeah.
just sent you the two pieces of art that I came across, like, again, years before the movie came out.
Yeah, I remember this.
yeah, the Godzilla and Mothra ship goes back a long time.
Yeah, and it's very cute. And the one where they humanized Godzilla, the ones that where they humanized Godzilla and Mothra, those are probably the sweetest ones, especially one done by like a Warner Brothers artist that everyone fell in love with.
And it's weird because it only exists because she's female and he's male.
Yeah, there's really no moments from the older movies where they have any kind of rapport like that because usually they're enemies. Like except for the two times that we mentioned.
That's how shipping works. The internet is like your parents when you mention that you have a female friend. They just assume.
Yep. Oh
there's-
boy.
They just assume that they're fucking.
Oh yeah, another meme. It's just like Kong's reaction to Ghidorah's call.
You're like, hey, I have.
sending you the images right now.
The meme, I mean, the fucking excerpt from the novelization that I can't wait to get to is great.
Well, what does
The,
Kong do there?
I don't want to.
the-
I won't tell you. I want to read it myself first. All right. He reacts to it very like Kong.
Like.
It's very similar to this actually.
Which one?
All of them.
Basically,
the Squidward one is the best one.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
what happens is this. Ghidorah calls Kong. Kong ain't responding to that shit. Kong is
He's busy.
he's like fucking T'Chaka. He's gonna stay in his area. He ain't fucking with the rest of the world. he's gonna stay on his island and handle his business. Meanwhile, the Skull Crawlers also heard Ghidorah's call.
Oh.
They start getting all rowdy, and then
Ooh.
King Kong's like, "I'm gonna handle
Yeah,
that."
he's fucking busy. He doesn't have time to fucking swim thousands of miles to go see what's up.
Probably can't even swim.
They also now I'm mentioning I wasn't going to spoil all this for you. Just
Kinda
you should read it
hoping-
one day. They also mentioned that Kong has maybe heard Godzilla in the past and ignored him.
Yeah, they reference the Godzilla Muto stuff that was going on in 2014.
Oh.
That Kong had heard all that. I'm kind of hoping that that's the reason they start fighting in the next movie. I'm hoping that Ghidorah made the call, the Skull Crawlers went all crazy, and like the battle just went really poorly, and like Skull Island is fucked now. And Kong's like, "Y'all motherfuckers."
Or maybe he's been forced to a place where he's like had to kill everything on it, or everything on it is dead, and he's like the only thing left because of that. Like, so yeah. And he's like just gotten to this place where he's like this grizzled like Mad Max Kong. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, because there used to be a species of them, so maybe they all had a different relationship with Godzilla and Ghidorah.
Well, that kind of like.
Well, I think the idea is in the past that they just never really, because like they were doing their own thing.
Yeah.
What kind of contradicts
Kong's
what
species must have evolved later than Godzilla's.
It's weird. I wonder if there's any kind of link between King Ghidorah and Skull Island, just because of the whole like perpetual storm cloud thing. It's an odd thing, you know?
Yeah, but it's a magnetic storm in which is actually more in line with Showa Ghidorah. They didn't make him magnetic in this because in Ghidorah, the three-headed monster, the asteroid's magnetic.
I just remembered.
Right.
Okay, so in the beginning of the movie, you had the one comic relief monarch guy who's giving like a visual presentation featuring like stock footage from Godzilla 2014 and Kong Skull Island. But it's kind of funny because Kong Skull Island was in the 70s, and yet that footage is like crystal clear.
Yeah,
Because
no,
it's
they
taken
definitely
from
could
the
have
movie.
fucked with that a little bit. They must have cleaned it up a lot, you know?
It's a digital.
They must have
recreation.
really-
They use
must-
the best CGI.
Yeah, they must have a really good color artist, you know?
Just wanted to point that out because I thought it was funny that it's like it's using stock footage in a Godzilla movie is certainly nothing new, but I just thought it was very interesting that they used all the stock footage they could, even like stock footage, like they used monitor footage from 2014 to use as monitor footage for 2019 of the Muto attacking Las Vegas.
There's also like
they also used the Comic-Con trailer too.
Yes, they did.
I noticed that. It was like, holy
They
shit.
did. Yeah, I think that was an intentional nod to people who've seen that, though.
There's also like shots from 2014 that you're like, okay, so who actually filmed that in universe?
Yeah, I had a problem. They did too much of that for Kong Skull Island, especially for Kong Skull Island. It's like, you shouldn't even have most of this footage. It should be all
Well,
destroyed.
John Goodman was taking photos and taking.
No, I know he was. And
Video.
that's why they should. And that's. I was fine with the action. Yeah, but remember in Skull Island, we got a little glimpse of what he was filming. We saw that. That was good. That was like good continuity.
Yeah.
But then we see like Kong walking away, which is footage of what's his name? Fucking Tom Hiddleston's
Loki?
character. Looking through binoculars at Kong, and I'm like, that was binocular fucking view. Like, what the hell? And I remembered that specific shot from that movie. God, Dave, you've got to chew softer, man. Jesus.
He's coming from Bill. He's a loud eater.
Oh, fuck you.
No, fuck you for not knowing how to close your goddamn mouth.
You know what, Andre, when was the last time I ate around you, you fucking
Maybe you should go back.
drama queen?
If you have to go back to muting your mic in between talking, do so.
I'm not trying to be a dick. I only say so because if we can hear it, Andres' listeners can definitely hear it.
I thought that was just the New Yorker and you getting triggered.
You guys have been doing that all night. That's why I missed you so much.
I miss my triggering.
I don't get this angry. Oh, no, I do. I do get this angry. What am I talking about?
The only thing that the only thing that Monarch should have are the pictures that Brie Larson took, because Rand is
maybe that's how they got it.
Because Rand, but she was taking still photographs, not fucking video. Like
they could have just made like CG footage recreations based on those pictures.
A still life.
If so, their CG recreation artists are very good.
By the way, where are those two characters in this movie?
Hollywood?
Because they wouldn't have anything that Randa shot because his camera got eaten by the skull crawler.
But that wasn't his film camera. That was his still camera. He had two. We don't know what happened to his film camera. We have to assume that Brooks had it.
Oh yeah, huh?
Maybe
We don't see it after. We don't see it after that. But I actually noticed that when I saw the movie.
Did John Goodman have like a bag or anything, like a fanny pack? Like, was he carrying?
I don't remember.
I'm pretty sure he did. I'm pretty sure he did because I'm thinking about that character's outfit.
And Brooks had it. He had it.
Oh, I love the fact that Brooks is in this movie.
They could have done more with him. I mean, they got Miles Dyson. They could have definitely done more with him.
I think he's gonna have a bigger role in Godzilla.
Definitely. I'm not saying it was a bad thing.
He's got to be like the preeminent Kong expert working at Monarch right now.
Sure, because he's seen him.
But it was just so cool to see him, and yeah, it's so cool that he's played by Miles Bennett Dyson. It's great.
Yeah, it was killer casting. He must have just been like on the Warner Brothers lot from Justice League, and they've been like, "Hey, you want to play like the guy from Kong?" They're like, "Yeah, totally, I'm there." Because he's in Justice League for like 10 minutes, and then he's in this for like 5 minutes. So
they mentioned him. They mentioned him once before that, and I thought, "Oh, that's neat."
The Hollow Earth theory, yeah.
I'm like, "Oh, that's cool. I'm glad that they mentioned that character." And then you see him, I'm like, "Whoa."
That's weird because I thought he was going to be in the post-credit scene, but it turns out the post-credit scene turned out to be something totally different from what I thought it was going to be.
I was genuinely surprised by that because I just expected to like see Kong or something. I don't know. I didn't really know what I was expecting, but they genuinely surprised me. I was happy with that though. I was happy to see like something genuinely surprising.
There were some hints about the next movie in the credits themselves.
Yeah. No, they pretty much like set the stage for the movie in the little headline. By the way, I didn't like in Kong Skull Island how they pretty much just copied the opening credits for Godzilla 2014. It wasn't bad. It was just the same. But in this, I loved that they made them the end credits. That felt like a nice homage and a fun homage to 2014. You know, like
they should have done instead in Kong Skull Island, instead of ripping off Godzilla 2014, they should have ripped off the Disney version of Mighty Joe Young, where in the opening credits you see a bunch of like cave paintings and shit.
Yeah, they kind of started with that too, didn't they? When they zoom in on young John C. Reilly's eye, young Marlowe's eye, and then you see Kong. Like they kind of start out with that kind of cave painting-esque look, and they definitely should have stuck with that because for the end credits of that movie, that worked really well. Yeah,
I do like that we have a cold open in this movie. Like I think they all have cold opens, don't they?
Yeah, because Godzilla. Well, no, because but Godzilla technically that's part of the opening credits, so it's kind of sticky. Like that movie technically starts with Janjira, or no, not with Janjira, with the Philippines. I'm sorry.
Right.
No.
Right.
Isn't it like did the last shot of the movie before it cut to black? Didn't it remind you of like the Lion King?
Oh yeah, I think they were
a little
going. Let's make Godzilla like a cooler version of fucking Simba. I was totally fine. I've been waiting for that kind of moment for years. I mean, I could definitely see some Godzilla fans being like, "That's too much for me." When I was younger, when I had like done Godzilla Palooza, if I had seen that, maybe I would have been like, "That was too much for me." But for me now, I'm like, "Give me more of that, please."
They should have gone all the way with it. You know, all the kaiju are gathered around, they're bowing down to Godzilla. Then Minya waddles into frame. And Godzilla,
I think there's a very good chance we're going to get him.
And raises him.
If this franchise goes long enough, they'll do a version of Minya for sure.
I actually wouldn't be surprised if we got a Godzilla Jr. in Godzilla vs. Kong. Because
it's a strong possibility. Because
it would be a way that you could have Kong be that definitive winner that apparently we're going to get, and still leave the door open for more Godzilla movies in the future. As much as I want Godzilla to win that fight because it just makes the most logical sense, and I've always thought that the ending of 62 was bullshit. I mean, how does Kong beat Godzilla?
It's an underdog story, Dylan.
That's beside the point. I'm pretty sure that from Legendary's point of view, they're going to want to have Kong be the winner because, for one, he's the bigger cash earner in the States, apparently, and also they're not dependent on another company giving them permission to do more Kong movies.
I guess Universal technically.
No. They totally are. They totally are. I almost feel like there's a better chance we'll get more Godzilla movies from them than we'll see Kong again after this, depending on how it does box office wise. Because they are loaning him from not only Universal but also Marion C. Cooper's estate.
Fuck.
But Toho are the ones that are like, "Oh, we're going to do our own Godzilla universe after Kong." And
we'll see.
Whereas we haven't heard any rumblings about like, hey, Marion C. Cooper's granddaughter wants to make a Kong movie. Like,
No, they wanted to do a TV show. Don't you remember? We talked about
damn
that.
it. Oh yeah, that was like announced like 2-3 years ago.
They also have comics going that crossed over with Planet of the Apes, so I think they're happy. And there's those books that they super endorse by Joe DeVito that I love. The Skull Island,
that's the one with the Gaw monster dinosaur.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the one that inspired the Skullcrawler.
Okay.
Or the main Skullcrawler, I should say, from
the Skullcrawlers themselves. Skullcrawlers themselves are like basically just that lizard that from the original movie. That's like
the Ravine Beast.
Climbs up the cave wall.
Let's see. Anything else I want to bring up? There probably is, but I forgot. So
You mean you didn't write this down?
nope. Let's see.
Should we move into talking about like the plot and the characters and all the things?
Yeah, we haven't talked about that at all. I definitely want to talk about that.
Okay, so where to start?
I am 99.9% sure that Vera Farmiga was cast in this movie purely based on the fact that she did almost this exact same thing in Bates Motel. She plays the fucking crazy bitch so well.
Mm-hmm.
It's beautiful. A lot of people don't like her. You're not really supposed to, I would say.
No,
Until
she's
you're
supposed to be a character
you're supposed to at the end.
Yeah, but she goes through an arc. I did like her.
She's out of her fucking gourd, okay?
Yeah.
Definitely.
And she's so good at that. I love her because I followed Bates Motel for the full 5 seasons. Big fan.
Yeah.
She's also in those Conjuring movies.
She made that sympathetic. She didn't just be like, oh, I'm an obnoxious, crazy person. I didn't feel that. I didn't feel that way. I thought like, oh, well, this is a real human being who has been driven to a nutty place. And I really enjoyed that. And I thought that she made that very compelling.
And she's crazy, but she's not like hysterical crazy. She's like that reasoned kind of crazy.
You see how this happened. I mean, you literally see it. You see Godzilla fucking truck by her and wreck her life in front of her eyes.
And
as she decides...
She's trying to rationalize that. She's like, well, that was
she's
inevitable.
trying to take control of it. She's trying to like be John Hammond about it.
As an actress, she has this like intensity and this like weird, awkward energy that I feel like this movie uses really well.
Mm-hmm.
The scene with her giving the PowerPoint presentation is the one that everybody makes fun of, and yeah, it's a little dopey.
Well, just in terms of how much footage she has prepared, but it's also like she obviously
worked
prepared
on that presentation. She workshopped.
I think it makes sense though. She was explaining to the people who she cared about why she was betraying them. So
she pitched it to Millie Bobby Brown for like a month leading up. Like, okay, so this is the presentation. What do you think,
David?
Should I throw in some more time lapse?
David, come on, man, you got to cool with.
Oh shit! I thought I had this shit on mute. My bad.
You don't feel sorry at all, do you?
I'm sorry I wrecked the brain, but it was eating away at my brain.
Anyways, yeah, it's funny. Like now, ever since like Avengers: Infinity War came out, now I know this sort of like humans are a blight on the planet, and we must exterminate them for the planet.
It's a little Infinity War.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. It's like, even though this sort of plot has been around since before Infinity War, but ever since Infinity War, I can only refer to this as a Thanos plot or a Thanos scheme.
Have we ever gotten eco-terrorists before in Godzilla? I don't think so, right?
We've had series. We had Scale.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It feels very Scale.
During my live stream, several people were like, "This is Scale right here."
That's true. I mean, real Godzilla.
I don't. No. They're also not like Scale. Like if you're saying like Charles Dance Alan Jonah is like a Scale terrorist, he's not, because he just wants to use the monsters as a means to an end. He's not really interested in them as beings. He's interested in what they can do for him.
Scale is like fucking PETA with guns, basically.
Yeah, that was the idea there. I really liked the idea here, where they're like, we have a job to do. You're the crazy one who views these things as like these gods that deserve to be in charge, but we just want to reap the benefits of what's left after.
Right. That's what I like
and it's
about
only
Charles
once
Dance.
Yeah.
Vera is the one who's all like, "Oh, I want to bring balance to the planet," and Charles Dance is like, "Yeah, totally," but he's really just like, "No, I just want to kill all the humans."
We're just waiting here until I can reap the benefits. The only problem that they run into, which I really like, is that when there's no Godzilla, Ghidorah will never go down. So, there's going to be nothing left to reap the benefits of.
I feel like his whole I feel like his whole mission statement going forward is Charles Dance is going to be trying to kill Godzilla because he's like the only thing preventing him from using the other monsters to fucking just destroy humanity like he wants to do.
Right.
That would be cool, but I feel like the movie doesn't I agree with a lot of Godzilla fans and critics that Charles Danson's character just doesn't do enough here to warrant his existence. You could have just had you could have had Vera Farmiga's character just be the main sort of human obstacle to just trigger everything. Charles Dance, he was a great actor. He has a great presence. The character is interesting enough, but he doesn't really do anything, nor is I feel like he is necessary for the plot other than just being someone to give Vera Farmiga the means.
So what would she have done then? Just pulled out a Glock and started shooting them in the middle of the fucking Mothra awakening?
She could have simply had her own organization. It could have been a twist that she was the leader behind this terrorist organization.
Yeah, but that was already kind of but she already kind of was because it was her plan.
Right.
It wasn't like she was just enacting Charles Dance's plan.
That's where
because they wanted to.
He was a mercenary, so he was there to do a job. He was there to run the dirty side of it because she wasn't the one doing the shooting.
They built him up.
You're saying you wanted her to do both?
Yes, and I'm saying
they wanted to give her the Anakin Skywalker thing at the end, and in order for that to happen, you have to have a bigger. You got to have a Palpatine. And I agree. I agree. Charles Dance should have done more. They should have used him more.
Oh, they totally could have developed him more. I'm not going to disagree with that.
He's got a great entrance. Like he comes in all.
Yeah.
I keep referencing Star Wars, but it's very much like Darth Vader coming into the fucking Tantive 4 at the beginning of New Hope. Like, his men just come in and shoot everybody, and then he just fucking strolls in. Like, where are the plans? Like, it's a great scene. But, yeah, he should have been used more. Definitely.
I just think we needed to see where he came from. That's it. I think he was the one character where we needed to see, well, why did he leave the military and decide that this was his lot in life? Because he was the one doing all the killing. But I got enough of a sense of it towards the end that it didn't hinder my enjoyment of his character at all.
I also think that Vera should have been the one to, like, take the Orca and, like, escape and go to the Boston Stadium. I think you should have had her realize her mistake. Maybe you could have even had her been the one to work out the fact that Ghidorah is actually an alien, and she realizes, like, oh shit, like, this isn't natural balance. This is, like, fucking... Mm-hmm. The fucking harvesters from Independence Day. Like, this is bad shit. Mm-hmm. And then she steals the Orca, sneaks out of the compound. You don't have that weird moment where Charles Dance is just like, let her go and ruin our plans. Like, no, she has to escape, and then she goes to the place and does the... And there are two ways to do that. Either you remove Millie Bobby Brown from the movie altogether, much as I enjoyed her, and then Kyle Chandler could just be there because, his ex-wife is presumably in danger. Or you have Millie Bobby Brown go with Kyle Chandler during the Antarctic scene, and then Vera goes off with the terrorist by herself, and then you can have her be the one to, like, have that moment later on. I think it would have made her redemption arc a little bit more complete, and made you care a little bit more about her as a human being if we had that.
Yeah, that's one of the problems I had with this film was the characters, in addition to the story, but. One of the main things I have a problem with the characters is there's too much characters. Like, you could have combined two characters into one character and, have a complete set of characters that didn't feel like overwhelming. Like, I felt like Vera Farmiga's character should have been merged with Sally Hawkins's character. She should have been the lead.
It feels very...
I don't agree with that at all.
Oh, wait, hold on. But let me pitch it to you right quick, Bill. They should have established that Dr. Graham has children, but she can't be with them because of her job. Then you have Alan Jonah come in, kidnap them, and establish that she once worked on this Orca device, but she abandoned it under Serizawa, not Serizawa's orders, but probably out of advice. Have faith in Gojira, as he says in the movie. So they force her to kind of like do a rough version of the device that kind of works, and then you go with the whole thing. I felt like
here's the problem with that premise, though. I don't think that
I'm not down with that at all. That sounds even dumber.
I don't think that Kim Watanabe would have had a problem with the Orca device on principle, because it was never intended to be like a control mechanism. It was just supposed to be a way of communicating with the kaiju. And it was the eco-terrorists who took that technology and used it as a way of unleashing the kaiju, which is never what it was intended to do.
Yeah, you see what it's for at the start when it calms Mothra down, because she was like, throwing people around, which is an awesome scene. What a great way to open the movie. And to make the Mothra larva scary.
And I
wish we'd gotten
like
a
how
little bit
the
more.
Mothra doesn't actually kill anyone.
Yeah, no, she was throwing them into the web. That was a nice little subtle thing as well. I enjoyed that.
I wish we had gotten more of the larval form of Mothra in this movie, but then again, there's so much going on in this plot, you kind of need her to cocoon herself as quickly as possible so that you can have her come out again later as in her imago form. That's totally fine, I get it.
Another character I really did not like was the first. They have two comic relief characters in Monarch. The dude with the glasses, with the gray hair behind the computer monitors. I liked him. I liked his sort of
Stanton's great. He's one of my new favorite characters.
The Rick and Morty character?
I feel like he could be one of us on this podcast with his with his don't give a shit attitude.
But his delivery
like
was
him.
so... What?
I like him, but I hate that line that was in all the trailers for the one person who said,
oh
"Oh my God,
Godzilla!" It's like, okay, no.
I enjoy that. All right.
That was this movie's "Take That, You Dinosaur."
But the other comic relief guy who's introduced in that sort of like UN meeting, who's sort of like this.
Sam.
Thomas Middleditch.
Yeah, I did not find him funny in the slightest.
That's weird though. He's not comic relief 90%
He's not
of the
comic
movie,
relief
though.
at all.
Like, I thought he was going to be.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to be way more jokey than he was based on the trailers. But the only scene I could think of where he's trying to be like really jokey is like the gonorrhea scene. Maybe that's this movie.
That was real quick too.
In most of his scenes, I got the vibe that they were trying to go for a MCU style quirky character. And it wasn't working for me. He was sort of like every time he spoke, it was like, can we move on from this guy? Can we delete this guy from the script? Is it too late for that?
He's definitely like a quirky, awkward personality, but I don't think he's like the trailers definitely made me think he was going to be the annoying comic relief, but he's not really. In most of his scenes, he's like with Dr. Serizawa.
The voice of reason sometimes.
It's like with Dr. Serizawa, like, and then there's the moment when he mourns Dr. Serizawa, which is actually really impactful.
Yeah, when he gets past that book, that's good.
I wish there had been as much gravitas behind Sally Hawkins' death, because I didn't
they did that too quick.
Right.
I didn't even realize she was dead until Ken Watanabe pulls up her picture, and I was all like, "Oh, I'm very sad." And I was like, "Oh, she's
yeah, that's deceased. Yeah, I liked that moment because like the look on his face was real good.
I thought it was the Chinese actors who died because it was so dark.
The Mothra.
Sally Hawkins. It was Sally Hawkins' character. She fucking. Also,
it's a fucked up death too. Like that's. I feel like it. Like when you understand what's going on, it definitely works real well. But they needed to linger on it for another few seconds to make it clear that she was the one we were losing.
Is the Chinese girl who's at the waterfall with Brooke supposed to be the twin sister?
Yep,
that's supposed
to be.
She
is. I've seen it 3 times now. She is.
Apparently, they're supposed to have different hairstyles, but because she's
she's got long hair, and the other one
she's got long hair.
But she's wearing a hood.
That's why I wasn't sure.
Yeah,
she takes it off.
Yeah, she takes it off. Again, it's still
quick.
Can't tell. I couldn't tell.
It's quick.
I wasn't sure because of the long hair. I thought maybe she was supposed to be the Chinese girl from Kong Skull Island.
Yeah, so I thought the first time I saw the movie. Yeah.
But which wouldn't make any sense either, because if so, she hasn't aged at all.
Hey man, the Asian people they don't age for a while.
They age slowly. Okay.
She got some of that Kong Skull Island juice that they're passing around in the movie.
We all stood in that elevator with Tomoko Ai, and she looked great for her age. But she aged.
That's another thing I was disappointed with. They established that the fairies exist in the MonsterVerse. That those two characters are the. What, you know what I fucking mean?
No, I don't.
They are the fucking twins in the MonsterVerse, and they do nothing with it.
Yeah, it's a throwaway. Go ahead.
Yeah, but it was a visual reference to them, and I thought that was a brilliant way to do it by making them all twins. I'm sure it is like influenced by Mothra. It was also maybe a reference to the fact that the Mothras were born as twins in the original Mothra versus Godzilla.
I did like the short-haired one. in my mind, she's like the red Shobijin from the Rebirth of Mothra trilogy. Like the red Shobijin was like the really like smart like leader one, and then the blue one was just like kind of dumb and tacked along.
I didn't need them to have powers though, and to be flying around on little Mothras. You know, I thought that she not only did she do enough in the plot, she was enjoyable, she was funny.
I liked her because I felt like all the best exposition scenes, and there are a lot of exposition scenes in this movie. I felt like all the best ones were hers. She delivered them very well. She had that great line where she goes, "That bitch."
Yeah, that was real good.
Yeah. So
that was such a good reaction to that.
The character's name is Dr. Chen, and did you forget the feeling that Dr. Chen came on to just be the replacement for Sally Hawkins as the female scientist?
Yeah, that.
Not really.
That's what
She
I
was
thought.
already there.
I didn't, because she had her own like field of study. She was all about like mythology, whereas Sally Hawkins was just sort of like
Another paleontologist.
Serizawa's understudy, basically.
Still, but she's the only female character in the group
I
that's a
get the
scientist.
feeling- I kind of saw her as like the token female that Sally once had in.
Well, that's only
2014.
because
Yeah, but that's only
That's
because
only-
she's the only one who's not a soldier. That's I don't think that's a problem because you know they had the commander who was a
I'm not saying
girl.
it's a problem. I'm just making an observation.
she's only
All right.
she's only the only one there. She's only the only one there because she's the only one who didn't die or turn into a terrorist. That's all. Like,
Well,
I didn't feel like
to
they
be
were
hon-
interchangeable.
Serizawa though is really good in this movie. I love
yeah.
God, yeah.
I love that he dies doing the opposite of what the original Serizawa died doing.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. It's it's sort of opposite in the sense he's carrying a fucking nuclear weapon around, but it's also what he's doing is very similar. You know, fucking sacrificing himself to die for what he believes in,
Right.
and maybe in the hope that we won't need to hurl around nuclear bombs to kill monsters in the future because Godzilla will make a world that makes sense out of all of it.
And I love how they take maybe my favorite story beat from Godzilla versus King Ghidorah in '91, where it's like, we didn't appreciate Godzilla, and now we need him, so we have to bring him back ourselves. And oh shit, now he's even bigger.
They did that so much better than that movie too.
Oh, here's the thing.
Yeah.
An interesting fact about the an interesting observation I noticed is that a lot of fans make the claim that using a nuclear bomb to bring Godzilla back to life goes against everything that Godzilla stands for, because they're using nuclear weaponry in a positive light. Whereas Godzilla, the original movie, was always an anti-nuclear weapon allegory.
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
Not every Godzilla movie is an anti-nuclear allegory. Let's be real about that. A lot of them are just...
Yeah.
I also don't feel like the original movie is going, we can't use nuclear weapons at all. We just need to get rid of them completely. It was, let's be careful when we test them so that way we don't fucking irradiate everything.
And that's the thing.
Show me the nuclear allegory in like Godzilla versus the sea monster. The bad guys have a nuke that they plan on using, but other than that, it's just a big monster slapping a giant lobster. Like,
yeah. I guess they a lot of fans don't like it that it's used in a positive light. But
humans used a worse weapon to kill Godzilla in the first place. The idea of it was, again, Serizawa was clearly against nuclear weapons. It wasn't like he was like, these things are awesome.
Apparently he survived the nuclear weapon, according to Godzilla Awakening.
And obviously in the first movie, he was very against them being used at all.
Yeah.
The idea was, again, I'm going to use and it's just like Serizawa in the original. I'm going to use the oxygen destroyer so nobody else will. I'm going to use this so that way nobody else has to hurl around these super weapons in the future to try and kill monsters.
Yeah.
They probably will, but because
Godzilla.
Godzilla's there, it'll probably go better.
Yeah, I do like that, and I feel like it was done in a respectful manner, in my opinion. And there is a negative consequences from the use of the nuclear weapon. Like, sure, Godzilla's brought back to life, but like as Dylan said, there's that oh shit moment where Godzilla's becoming too powerful. He's going into nuclear meltdown mode. He's going burning Godzilla.
It's a little similar to. Oh, go ahead.
I think the reason he doesn't straight up explode like they think he's going to do is because King Ghidorah like sucked out a bunch of that energy. Like he was doing the Kaiser Ghidorah thing where he like bites onto him and starts draining them.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I got the sense that he didn't stay like that just because he used all the power, and probably because Mothra like maybe balanced him out a little bit when she went into him.
Probably. Also, I'm not sure if that was a reference to the Godzilla Rodan sequence from Mechagodzilla 2, but
I got that sense too.
Yeah.
I thought it was a reference to that.
What was it? Oh, another thing I thought was maybe they were doing with Serizawa's character that I liked was after the death of Sally Hawkins, maybe the writer was trying to do like a parallel between how Kyle Chandler's character, Mark Russell, was handling the death of his son, while comparing that to how Serizawa handled the death of Sally Hawkins' character, where it's like he uses her death to further motivate him to prevent such a tragedy from happening again, as opposed to how Kyle Chandler's character handled the loss of his loved one and turned it into and had it haunt him for years apparently. So I thought it was an interesting way of seeing these two characters handle the loss of a loved one. And maybe
they did that real well.
Maybe Serizawa was meant to serve as an example how he quickly dealt with the loss, not maybe too quickly, but how he dealt with the loss of Sally Hawkins' character. Maybe that was meant to act as a mentor role for Kyle Chandler to then pick up the torch or take up the position that Serizawa once had.
But also, I think it was also paralleling how he felt about nuclear weapons, with how Kyle Chandler felt about Godzilla.
Yeah,
where it's he grew up fucking, just oh man, these things are the fucking worst. Oh, Admiral Stenz, you can't fucking use them. I gotta carry one in to revive Godzilla. It's about the irony of it's exactly like what he says in the movie, we make amends with demons who created our wounds. And that's the only way to peace.
And it's also similar to how the original Serizawa has to give up on his conviction to never use the oxygen destroyer because he has no other option, because that's what the situation demands.
Right.
What was that? Sorry.
So he engineers a situation where he can use it once safely, presumably safely, until 95, and then be done with it.
That's why he killed himself in the midst of it. But what I also...
You mentioned Awakening before, and it just struck me. The fact that there's an ancient civilization that worshipped Godzilla at the time when Godzilla was common, does that explain the sailboats in a way?
I don't know if it does, because I think the humans maybe came around when Godzilla was the only one left of his kind. That's the idea I got.
So sailboats are still bullshit. Good. Just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, I'm sure that was just an artistic mistake. Maybe whoever scripted the comic forgot to mention what time period it took place in, and by the time he edited it and he gave it to the script to the artist artist looked at it, said, okay, I'm gonna write sailboats here because he didn't specify when it took place. Then the writer looked at it and it's oh shit, I forgot to write so and so million years ago, and the artist was too bad, I'm already out.
Yeah, that's possible because it was done by a bunch of people.
You could have just photoshopped out the sailboats. I don't know.
Don't forget the prehistoric Precambrian whales.
Right.
That's the thing I was gonna say.
Yeah. Oh, David, you said you want to say something while I was bringing up the Chandler Serizawa comparison.
No, I was going to say it's kind of a bit of an overstretch because the movie doesn't iterate those emotions from Serizawa. You hardly ever see him grief except for that one moment where he's looking down after putting down Deceased on the computer.
Yeah, that is true. I'm just thinking
Serizawa was a practical.
We could have spent more time with it.
Yeah,
but I felt like it was done well.
That's what they were trying to do, but didn't get conveyed fully.
Serizawa was a pretty practical guy, though. He has his moment of grief, and then he's like, okay, we got business to attend to here.
That's why there was the moment, let's keep searching. It's the only thing we can do in the moment is to just keep doing stuff and to not sit around and feel bad about it. So I thought it was done well. Could we have spent a couple more seconds on the fact that the girl died in the first place? Definitely.
While we're on the subject of Kyle Chandler, I love Kyle Chandler in this movie.
He's definitely the best human character. Yeah. Outside of Serizawa, they are the two best. They're the two best for sure.
I think I love him for the same reasons that Bill loves Gondo and Biollante. He's just such a smartass, and he's so over all of this shit. He doesn't want to be there. It's great.
Yeah.
And I've seen some people complain he's got that leading man problem where he's always the guy who knows what to do in any given situation. And I'm like, yeah, but they also established that he used to be the head of technology for Monarch, so he knows his way around.
Also, he's a different kind of zoologist than everybody else is. He's an animal behaviorist. They're all fucking like, oh, I'm a paleontologist. I study sounds. Oh, I study mythology. He is in the field with real animals. He knows how they act. So he's got even an insight on these things that fucking Serizawa doesn't even have. And I really enjoyed that because they both brought two very different mindsets to it.
That moment when he's trying to tell Serizawa we need to go over here, and everybody else in the ship is like, "Oh, that's bullshit. Why would we go over there when we're clearly we need to be here?" It almost reminds me of that moment in Lost World Jurassic Park where like the rich dude is like, "We'll set up camp here," and then and then the hunter's like, "This is a game trail. Do you want to
cancel that order?"
But he's just so great. I love him in this, and it also struck me he's probably going to be in Kong versus Godzilla because they set him up as being like the new Serizawa, like the new like head scientist guy. He sort of takes that mantle. And so it struck me, Kyle Chandler, as far as I know, is the only American actor that I can think of who's been in both a Godzilla movie and a King Kong movie, and now he's going to be in Godzilla vs. Kong.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he was in Congo 5, huh?
Yeah, he was Bruce Baxter.
Yeah, mustache comb guy.
Yeah, if it helps you to like Photoshop a comb in front of his face,
I think that's fun too. He's a lot better. I think.
It's kind of ironic that they got Kyle Chandler as the leading man because for the longest time, I always thought that Kyle Chandler has that golden age Hollywood actor look about him.
Yeah.
And they cast him as that. They cast him as that very character in Congo 5.
He played his character that he was gonna play in Congo 5.
He's definitely the closest thing we have to like 50s leading man scientist.
50s man.
He's here
to crush your culture and take it for his own.
Like he feels like he could have been in
through his masculinity alone.
His spear gun.
He feels like one of those guys from Creature from the Black Lagoon, just a little older, and that's a
and
rare
with
thing.
more gravitas and depth. Totally.
Yeah, and that's a rare thing these days. Those classic leading men, they don't really make them like that anymore.
I think that's another reason why I just think this movie works so well. They just took all those tropes, they mashed them all together, and they developed them, I think, a lot more and fucking balanced it with the Godzilla stuff, and it was just such a nice package.
Oh, I forgot to bring up one thing when we were talking about the nuclear stuff, and that is like I think Dylan once mentioned the idea that nuclear weapons are nuclear technology isn't exactly so bad per se, but rather it depends on how we use it. And I think an example can be no clearer than how Japan uses nuclear energy to keep its country running, because there's nuclear reactors everywhere, and of course it's as while America depends on oil, electricity. Japan mostly relies on nuclear energy with nuclear power plants. I'm sure I'm pronouncing that word wrong, but I don't care at the moment. Just letting you know in case anyone commenters try to say it.
No, I'm pretty sure you're saying nuclear correctly. It's people who say nuclear who are wrong.
Okay. So
there's also that thing of it's not 1954 anymore. Atomic energy isn't this new thing that we don't fully understand. We've lived with it for nearly
we're not testing it 200 miles off the coast of Japan anymore. It's different now.
Within our lifetimes, the atomic bomb will have existed for 100 years.
Oh shit, you're right.
It's not the pressing concern of our age anymore. And so again, these allegories, they've got to evolve while remaining faithful to what the original idea was.
Yeah, and I think they nailed that, because I also think the idea of Serizawa reviving Godzilla with the bomb was also, he understood that he was doing something that was super fucking controversial and could lead to bad shit. Because of course there's the possibility that Godzilla could turn on humanity. He obviously understands that, but he's accepting the risk. It's almost like when the girl lets all the dinosaurs out of the basement in Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom. It's like, I know that bad shit might come of this, but the benefits far outweigh the risks to me. And I thought that was very cool.
Benefits? There were no fucking benefits of that.
I disagree with the girl. I disagree with the clone girl from Jurassic World 2, but I agree in Serizawa's case here.
No, but it was the same idea, though.
Yeah.
I think it was done better in this, too, and it made more sense to have Godzilla around. But the idea of her was, am I going to sit here and watch all these animals suffocate or not?
Uh-huh. And
the clone girl is actually a little bit more similar to what Vera Farmiga was doing. And to be fair, in Vera Farmiga's case, we saw that she was actually kind of right in the end credits. Like the waste from the kaiju can be used as like clean energy, and like the areas where they had destroyed stuff were like growing with all this new life and shit. Like, she's not wrong entirely.
It felt like this world had to have something like this happen. You know, the big fight between Godzilla and Ghidorah had to happen, and the dawn of Titans had to come again. That was the point of the movie, definitely. And like the way the end credits evoked that was awesome. That fucking rendition of the Godzilla song, awesome.
That's the other reason, though, that I'm pretty sure that they're going to have Kong win next year, and I'm really pissed about it because they allude to this. They allude to Godzilla turning on humanity in this movie.
Yeah, I think that might be the status quo breaker of the next movie, and if so, that's awesome. We kind of need that in an American Godzilla movie, and I feel like we've been it's been bubbling under the surface ever since 2014. Of like, yeah, if the Mutos wake up Godzilla, he'll kill them and cause a whole bunch of destruction in the meantime.
What I like about that idea, though, is that having Godzilla turn against humanity is like the reverse of his arc from the Showa series. In this universe, he starts out superhero Gamera Godzilla, and then eventually, if we're right,
1999 Gamera.
Yeah, exactly. And then, if we're right, he will become the enemy of humanity in the next film. So that's an interesting reversal. Yeah. If that's true.
But it feels like, again, it's built into this version because his whole point, he wasn't made to defend people like the 90s Gamera was. He already existed, and he happened to at one point build up a coexistence type of relationship with some people. But he's all about making sure everything is up to his standard. You know, that's the thing, and that's why I think it's more built in that he's going to turn on us one day, and that it'll make sense.
He's more like Showa Gamera.
I feel like he's more like Showa Godzilla, just again with the human prehistory built in.
I'm just saying we keep referencing like Heisei Gamera, and that's because 2014 feels a lot like Guardian of the Universe. But really, if you look at the origin, it's a lot closer to the Showa Gamera thing.
That's fair, but we don't know if that Gamera ever had a prehistory relationship with people. It's kind of implied, but it's never like they never really give any kind of. Yeah, well, there's also there's that painting. They're not a painting. It's like a slab at the start that's got drawings of Gamera on it. So it's just not like as explicitly shown.
Yeah,
it's more like 2014 actually.
Yeah. Can we talk about the Oxygen Destroyer thing?
Yeah, that was probably the biggest what the fuck.
Yeah, that was my biggest problem first time watching it for sure.
The only problem I have with it is that they should have established it earlier in the film. And it would have been so
pretty much my only problem with it now.
It would have been so easy. All you have to do is have Admiral Stins mention it during the fucking meeting where they're being interrogated by fucking Amanda Waller.
Right.
And then it would have been fine. You would have set it up. He could have, he didn't have to call it the Oxygen Destroyer by name. He could have just said, you know, like
we have a weapon that's capable of killing him. That's why we want to do it. That's what they really needed that for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Or you could have just not had it in the movie at all and just had King Ghidorah and Rodan overwhelm Godzilla in that moment, and then Godzilla has to go to recuperate. But if you absolutely feel like you want to put it in the movie, then set it up beforehand. That's all I ask.
They needed some way for humanity to take out Godzilla because they needed that to be part of the, part of Serizawa's sacrifice.
Right. It's like atoning for their mistake.
Yeah, but they could have done that with Ghidorah too. He could have like easily, hurt him.
Yeah,
because the Oxygen Destroyer
put him out of commission for a while.
Yeah, but what Bill's saying is that by having the humans not nearly kill Godzilla, and then it adds this extra layer to Serizawa's sacrifice in that he's like basically atoning for
his species' mistake, basically, of creating the Oxygen Destroyer in the first place and ruining their chances of taking Ghidorah out. That's why I like that.
Yeah, that's a good idea. It's just
that's why you needed a human weapon. My only thing is they needed to fucking say at some point in the movie, our technology has gotten to the point where we can make an Oxygen Destroyer or super weapons of any kind.
Explain what the fuck an Oxygen Destroyer is, because for all we know, it's just a regular bomb that glows green.
No, I mean, it clearly like sucked the air out of the fuck. It clearly because it sucked all the air out of the fucking scenery and into the water. So it wasn't just a bomb. I didn't need to know what it was. I needed it to be established earlier in the movie that it was a thing at all, because it came out of nowhere and it was established via a Skype call. That was a little too much.
You know what else you could have done?
The problem with that is though that a regular missile can do that if there's like a whole family of fish in the area. It's gonna do the same thing as the oxygen destroyer did in this movie.
When the fish came up,
They would have done the same thing to Godzilla, though.
When the fish came up to the surface, they should have had them be skeletons. They should have.
Yeah,
That's true. That's fair.
Yeah, if they did that, then it would have been the true oxygen destroyer. But the problem is, it's only the oxygen destroyer in name. So you kind of have like a Godzilla '98 thing here, where it has the name, but it doesn't have the.
Odino. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess so. I mean, I don't think it's nearly that to that extent. I just think they needed to establish it earlier.
And I like how they don't come out and say this, but it's clear that the reason it doesn't kill Ghidorah is that Ghidorah isn't from Earth. Because think about it.
Probably doesn't even breathe oxygen.
Ghidorah doesn't need oxygen. He travels in the vacuum of space.
Yeah, that was good. Man, when he fucking... Oh, I can't believe we didn't mention this earlier. When he grew that fucking head back, I fucking lost it in the theater.
Yeah.
It was so badass. Shin Ghidorah. Fucking, that was awesome.
That's another point of comparison between this and Gamera. That is exactly what Showa Gauss does when he loses his foot.
Oh, by the way, Shin Ghidorah, that's now a thing.
Oh, yeah, there is a Shin Ghidorah.
I've seen the art of that. Yeah. It's just like advertising stuff, though, right?
It's for the Evangelion versus Godzilla attraction at Universal Studios Japan.
If he were a true Shin Ghidorah, his wings would be very tiny and his eyes would be very derpy.
Instead, he just looks all craggy and spiky.
Look for a Kaiser Ghidorah, based on what I saw.
Kind of looks like they were trying to mix like traditional Ghidorah with like that like thorny look from the anime movie.
Yeah. With smaller legs.
Weird
And
thorny banana monster.
And when Godzilla ripped off his head during the second fight, when I first saw it, that was such a great moment in a movie theater for me, because I genuinely had no idea what was gonna happen next. I was like, is that it? Is Ghidorah done? Is there gonna be another monster that we didn't know about? But
I thought they had pulled the wool over our eyes. I thought it had been like a Thor Ragnarok situation, and Ghidorah was going to go the rest of the movie with only 2 heads. I was like, oh shit. The trailers lied to me.
Yeah, no, that was a good. That was really good. They did that well.
Let's see.
Another thing you could have done to give Millie Bobby's character a little bit more to do is do what I think a lot of people theorized they were going to do, in that have her be sort of a Miki Sagusa type character.
Yeah, that would have been interesting.
Yeah, they could have maybe done with a little more of her interacting with the monsters. Clearly, she knew everything about them.
Instead of having an orca, could have had her be the orca.
Ooh.
Yeah, maybe like if they genetically engineered a Miki Sagusa, that would have been interesting.
I also really like that idea because it's a little bit like Katsura, and I felt like Vera Farmiga was a little bit Mifune, and it would have just.
That's a good point. Yeah.
It's funny you say that, and good thing we were bringing up Millie Bobby Brown. At one point in the movie, I thought they were establishing something that never happens. I thought they were going to do this because I guess I misinterpreted this moment in the movie. There's this part where Vera says she calls her Madison, and suddenly she becomes compliant. I thought that Madison was the first experiment for the orca. I thought they were setting that up.
I thought it was like a Bucky Barnes thing where like you said.
Yeah. I thought they were doing that.
No, it's just supposed to be that like mom thing where she like uses her full name and then she's like, oh shit, she means business. Like that's all that was supposed to be.
Yeah, I thought that would have been interesting if they did go with it, because then later on she would have realized how far she went for the sake of creating the orca.
And you can't tell me that adding psychic powers to this movie would be jumping the shark, because let's be real. There are no sharks left to jump.
Yeah, it reminds me of like...
Especially if they would have done it like through genetic engineering or something.
Like, it reminds me like of the idea when we were all speculating what they could do for Godzilla 2 after Godzilla 2014 came out, and a lot of us doubted that like Ghidorah would ever be a thing, because Ghidorah, that's too unrealistic for this realistic tone they're going for. And again,
that's going on anything's game.
Yeah, this is what I mean by what the stylistic thing of like taking the realism of Godzilla 2014, throwing it out the window and say, fuck it, we got 3-headed alien dragon now. So for the next movie, if there's a next movie, some people think, oh, is there going to be Mechagodzilla or Mecha King Ghidorah? And some people say, well, giant robots, that's not real. I don't see that happening for this universe yet. And I'm thinking to myself, well, if they jump the shark with this movie, I feel like they're gonna jump another shark.
But you see.
Well,
that-
the Oxygen Destroyer is a nice little. That's one of its maybe better
thing-
points is that it's a nice little building to that.
that thing in the end credits where they're like, oh, the energy from the kaiju can be used as a renewable energy source. I feel like that's the perfect way. I feel like that opens the door to all that like sci-fi technology that they had in the Toho films. I want to see Mechagodzilla. I want to see Maser tanks, real fucking Maser tanks.
Yeah.
I want to see Super X's.
The little news clips at the end of the film confirmed that they're building a robot on Skull Island.
What?
Yeah. No, I swear to God. I
don't remember that one.
Mechanic Kong, anybody? Mechanic Kong?
Well, it's on the clipping that says Monarch putting more forces around Skull Island, Skull Island becoming unstable, ? And then there's a key word that it's not highlighted, but it's there with the article. Mechanized giant.
Okay.
What if it is Mechanic Kong?
That's awesome. Dylan, I told you this. My dream Godzilla and King Kong movie is one where they team up and fight Mechagodzilla and Mechanic Kong at the end.
What if Brooks
That's my dream.
What if Brooks is like King Kong's the last of his species? Eventually he's going to die. We need to build our own Kong to keep order on Skull Island.
That's not bad.
And then they build Mechanic Kong.
I'm fine with that. That's awesome. He's like a new Doctor Who. Maybe he goes crazy. That'd be cool.
Maybe him and Kong team up on Godzilla, and that's how you can justify Godzilla losing to a fucking monkey.
I don't think they're gonna do it like that.
I don't think Mechanic Kong's actually going to be in the movie. I'm just saying.
I don't think so. Only because if he was, we would know about it now. I feel like.
You never know. And,
You're right, but I feel like there's a good possibility we would.
I keep trying to think of ways that you could have like made Millie Bobby Brown's character have more to do, but at the same time, she's been confirmed that she's going to be in the next movie, so maybe they just have plans for her later.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought that this film was just filler for her. Well, I mean, her role in this film was just filler for whatever she's actually going to do in Godzilla vs. Kong, because apparently she's got second billing after Alexander Skarsgård.
I feel like she's going to take up like the mantle of like her mom and her father's research and like be that. Maybe she'll be the Sally Hawkins to his Serizawa, you know?
Kyle Chandler's confirmed is coming back too, right?
I'm not sure.
He's been confirmed, but he's not one of the main cast. He's just like his role has been reduced to a supporting character.
He's probably going to be like Serizawa in the next movie.
Yeah,
I imagine.
and also Dr. Chan too. She's coming back too, but she doesn't have a bigger role like she did in this film. Well, her role wasn't even that fucking big in this movie anyway. So it's not like
she had quite a bit of dialogue, though.
I agree that maybe there are a few too many people like standing around on the Argo delivering exposition, and you could have pared back those characters a little bit. But at the same time, it kind of reminds me of like Heisei, where like you would like in like Battle for Earth, where you just keep cutting back to like that like war room, and there's fucking Miki Sagusa's there, and Akira Takarada, and that one Japanese guy whose dub actor sounds like this. And,
oh god. What's happening to our planet?
What's happening?
Whoa. Wait, the dude from Ultraman and Kamen Rider?
Yeah, that guy. Oh god, I haven't thought about that in forever.
I love that guy. What's happening to our planet?
I remember we wouldn't stop quoting that for 2015 G-Fest.
What's happening to our G-Fest?
What's happening to our artist alley? It's getting smaller by the minute.
What's happening to this review? No, yeah, my two favorite lines in that movie are "What's happening to our planet?" and when the bad guy, the like evil corporate guy, is like, "The Earth wants its revenge, does it? Fine, I don't care."
Yeah.
I'll blow up 1,000 Earths.
He's great.
I don't know why I combined that with a Monsters Inc. reference.
Looking at the box office like, what's happening to our franchise?
Oh no!
Oh no! Too real for me.
I'm gonna have to be blunt about this. I'm gonna throw in the towel, and I'm gonna make my prediction and say I doubt we're gonna get anything past Godzilla vs. Kong.
I'm totally fine with that.
Call me a negative Nancy, but I'm throwing in the towel right now.
I think there's a chance that GVK could turn it around only because Kong is the bigger name star here in America. He draws bigger box office. And so if they lean pretty heavily on him in the marketing, and also a lot of people are going to want to see those two throw down, I think there's a chance.
Probably, but there's two big obstacles. One is that, well, I guess three. One is that like God's giant monster stuff. It seems like it's never going to really ever reach the mainstream status of like superhero movies have become.
You say that, but they would have said the same thing about superhero movies in the 90s.
Probably, yeah, but maybe just it's still not the time yet for giant monsters to become mainstream yet, and they're still a niche property. Like, you know, Godzilla's underperforming. Pacific Rim, both Pacific Rims bombed. There was
here's my theory on that.
Mm-hmm.
Warner Brothers made a very questionable decision to release it not only a month after Endgame, but also in a month where you had an entire crowd of movies coming out. John Wick 3.
John Wick
3,
Rocket
which already
Man,
had like Rocket Man,
Aladdin. Yeah.
I think they should have gone later. I think they should have gone later on in the year. Like this
should have gone August. What's coming out in August?
This movie cannot compete with the stuff that's coming out right now. But if you put it up against, like Terminator: Dark Fate, I think it would have.
Here's the other thing. It's been 5 whole years since the first movie, and like outside of Godzilla fans, I don't really see a lot of people still talking about either Godzilla 2014 nor Kong Skull Island. And the thing is, like,
I don't know that the amount of time in between movies is as big as a problem as a lot of people make them out to be, though. Like, this idea that, like, a franchise needs to put out a new movie every 2 to 3 years to remain relevant is pretty recent. Like, there are a lot of very successful sequels that come out, like, a decade after their original.
But are any of them made within this decade?
I'm thinking.
Put them on.
I was gonna say that.
Sorry, let me just make this point. I just get the feeling
I wish I could say Blade Runner 2049, but that underperformed.
Oh yeah, there you go. That just proves my point. Like
Indiana Jones 4 didn't underperform, but it wasn't great.
Sure, but it made money. It made money.
No, that's what I'm saying. It made money.
Yeah.
Look at fucking Star Wars.
Star Wars Indiana Jones has like a whole other level of popular. The thing is, that is mainstream. Godzilla is not. Nor was Blade Runner mainstream.
Well, it's not the same kind of mainstream. It's culturally, mainstream, but it's not, mainstream blockbuster material, unfortunately. But I also feel I think the crowded box office was the real killer here. But also, I just don't think that fucking Rotten Tomatoes score helped either. I feel like a lot of people were gonna go and they didn't.
Again, it's like, when has Rotten Tomatoes ever stopped the Transformers movies from being popular?
Those Transformers movies, and they started in 2007.
Well, actually, they did stop Transformers 5 because apparently that is the lowest earning Transformers film so far in the Michael Bay movies. So, yeah, Rotten Tomato. I was going to say this next.
Think the pre-sales screwed Warner Brothers' prediction. I mean, they thought they were going to have a way bigger opening because they had big pre-sales, and then a lot of people refunded their tickets, I think, when they saw the reviews, unfortunately. I know people. I know people who did too, so that's why I say that.
I was going to say this too. Before I was rudely interrupted.
I don't know who did it. I apologize.
Well, for once, Bill, it wasn't you.
Okay, good.
Anyways, I was going to say this.
David?
It wasn't you either, Andres. But I am pleading the fifth. Hopefully, no one connects any dots.
Well, by process of elimination. By process of elimination, you're clearly talking about me, you fucking...
My bad. Well, anyways, as I was going to say, and I said this on Toku Legion a lot, Rotten Tomatoes does have power as much as people love saying, fuck Rotten Tomatoes, because the prices of tickets are increasing every year. Like a decade ago, what was it, like $7.50? Now, like, depending on which format or
those golden days.
Yeah, and now depending on which format or which theater you go to, whether it's like an AMC or a Cinemark or a Regal or D-Box, yeah, people read, the consensus on Rotten Tomatoes to see if it's
Fandango. It's on the page where you buy the fucking ticket, so it does definitely have an
I don't think Rotten Tomatoes on its own is going to determine the success or failure of a movie. But if you're trying to say that it's not a factor at all, then you're insane. It's clearly
it didn't ruin it. That's not my point. But it ruined the pre-sales. It ruined the pre-sales.
By the way, Andres, By the way, Andres, Halloween 2018 was a recent sequel that made tons of money and came out way later than any of its previous films.
I hate to say that too, because I hate people who make that. It's just like, oh, Rotten Tomatoes ruined the box office, but it kind of did though. not ruin it. It affected it.
And it's not just Rotten Tomatoes. There's also Metacritic, and there's also just people who follow certain critics. And if the critic that they follow says that they didn't like it, then they're less likely to go see it themselves.
Right.
And it's also like people are allowed to do that, you know,
yeah,
too.
Of
like,
course,
you know, yeah. And I'm not saying that they should. Oh, you shouldn't have done it to support Godzilla. I'm just saying that that's what happened. That's what happened here, I think.
To be fair,
that is a factor that needs to be considered.
I'm making an observation.
To be fair, that is the proper way to use film criticism. You're supposed to find a few critics who you tend to agree with, and that way when they give you their opinion, it'll give you a good idea of whether or not you would like it. You're not supposed to just like go look at a site and you're like, oh, it's got a fucking 20%. It must be bullshit. Like
Dylan, what was that what you meant when you put on your Facebook that people don't know how fucking reviews are supposed to work?
Yes, people don't understand film criticism, and they don't know how to use Rotten Tomatoes correctly. And also, people who are like, "Oh, fuck Rotten Tomatoes," their review is
critics. They don't know they don't know shit.
Yeah.
I actually saw somebody say Rotten Tomatoes review of Godzilla was bullshit, and I'm like,
oh god,
review.
I'm like, Rotten Tomatoes doesn't review anything.
Yeah, that's what the response to it was bullshit, because you know it's everybody's looking at it like, oh, it's this one guy going around shitting on the movie. It's like,
meanwhile,
it's reflective of a bunch of people's opinions.
Meanwhile, 1 week later, those same people, oh, look at Dark Phoenix's Rotten Tomatoes score.
Yeah, I know.
What bullshit.
Yeah, Godzilla's totally gonna kick its ass now.
So they should have released it at least at the end of June or early July. And 4th of July would have been like the perfect
because then it's competing with Spider-Man.
Yeah, no, Spider-Man.
Oh fuck! I forgot that was a thing.
That's like the big midsummer movie. Again, I think you'd put this out in like mid-August, and it would have done. It would have done better. It would have done better.
I think you either go late summer or maybe even early fall for this one. That's a much easier market to compete in.
I feel like they should stick with the March release date for Godzilla vs. Kong, because that's a good, unless there's something coming out that month that I don't know about. That's a good frame for these movies to not have to compete with another big blockbuster.
Is Marvel putting anything out this March?
That's a good. I don't think they are. I think they're taking early 2020 off, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, they deserve it.
Well then,
take a fucking break, Kevin Feige.
If they do push it back, then I think maybe fall is a good idea. Just don't push it back to compete with fucking Bond in 2020, because that's...
Right.
Here's the thing.
Like I said, though, I think if you put it up against, like, Terminator Dark Fate or, like, Rambo Last Blood, both movies that I do want to see, I'm sure it would do much better in that kind of a season.
Here's the thing, though. I don't if they do push it back, I don't think it's going to be because of, they're going to do reshoots or, quote-unquote, deliver an A+ movie.
Yeah, that's what Toby Emmerich said, and I don't trust anything an Emmerich has to say about a Godzilla.
Yeah, that is questionable, isn't it? He's got that name.
Yeah. If they push it back, it's really likely, from a business strategy to get a release date where there's no competition. It's really nothing for, making the movie better.
I hope so. So then, if there was something competing with them in March, I hope so too. I don't want them to pour $100 million more into it and then not make that back.
There are two reasons to push back a movie. One is, oh, this isn't very good, we need to try to fix this. And the other is, hey, we just think that this would be a bad time and we want to release it in a less competitive market. That's a good reason to do that. That is what we should hope for.
I wasn't gonna bring this up because it's kind of trivial, but it might be a tiny bit relevant, and take it as you will. When I was talking to Adam Wingard briefly, and I was talking about Godzilla vs. Kong with him a little bit.
Look at me, I'm a big shot. I'm talking about Adam Wingard.
Let me just
I totally am.
Boy, Adam Wingard here.
All right, let him speak.
Well, anyways, he told me that the movie was coming along nicely. I was interpreting that as more like, the movie's doing good, like it doesn't need any reshoots or anything like that. So this whole pushing back the release date.
Well, of course he's going to say that.
Yeah, what do you think he's going to tell you? Like, oh, it's turning out to be a real shit show.
I think Adam Wingard is going to tell you, oh, I did a really shitty job.
You'd better call Roland Emmerich and get him to come in and fix this. Can you imagine? No, I mean, obviously, but I also don't. That doesn't mean I discredit what he said. I'm sure he genuinely feels that way too.
Who's the guy who fixed Rogue One? Can we get him on the phone?
God, forgot his name. Tony Scott? No, that nigga's dead.
No, he's very dead.
Gareth Edwards, you don't have to fix Rogue One. It's the greatest film ever made.
There's a new Bad Boys movie coming out.
This year? Is that this year or next year?
No, in 2020.
In March?
Yeah, this is around when Godzilla vs. Kong is coming out.
Ooh, that might be why they're pushing it. Bad Boys 3.
There's a remake of The Grudge coming out. Why?
That's already dead in the water.
Clearly, it was due to the success of Rings.
See, Birds of Prey is supposed to come out in 2020, but like, is that even happening?
Ooh.
Yeah, they're filming it already.
Wait.
Oh, okay.
Tony Gilroy was the name.
Okay, yeah, that is the guy who refilmed Rogue One. Is that the one they put out the trailer for with like all the Hot Topic fucking footage? Is that supposed to be Birds of Prey?
Did Men in Black 3 make money? That's another recent sequel that was far removed from
It's
its
not out
predecessors.
yet.
Men in Black 3.
Oh,
Men in Black 3 has been out since
Yeah,
2013.
3, Andres. 3. Shall we go
I
back
think
to
it did
elementary school,
okay.
Andres?
I don't pay attention to Men in Black anymore.
Men in Black
The
International,
new one
though.
looks pretty. It looks pretty good.
Yeah. I think it made back. Its budget was $215 to $225 million. It grossed back $624 million worldwide, not accounting for the marketing that they put into Men in Black 3.
So that's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Oh shit! The new Top Gun
fact-
movie might be coming out in March. That might be why they moved it.
The fact that those are both like long-awaited sequels that are very highly anticipated by fans of those franchises.
No, that's June. That's not why.
Maybe it's like it's a
The
combination.
fact that Men in Black 3 made back that money despite that Pitbull song is very impressive.
I would say like I honestly feel like it's Godzilla King of the Monsters underperformance is maybe perhaps a combination of the fact that it's been so long since the first movie. It's kind of already left escaped a lot of people's minds about it. It's already left people aren't thinking about it. It's not in everybody's mind, and it's a combination of that. And the fact that Godzilla is still not yet mainstream enough for it to stay in the public consciousness. So people would be like, oh yeah, it's that sequel to that movie I saw but haven't thought about in 5 years.
I think I know why they're moving Godzilla vs. Kong.
Why?
And it's Mulan, because that comes out in March 2020. But it comes out after, so like I really wouldn't think it would affect it.
That's another thing that hurt this Godzilla movie. People are still going to see Aladdin.
And also, there's another Disney Pixar movie coming out the week before Godzilla vs. Kong was supposed to. Onward, that's that Chris Pratt, Tom Holland one that was announced.
Oh yeah. The fantasy, the modern day. As Dylan once pointed out, it's bright but good.
Yeah. Bright but good. That's.
All right, I might see that then, but it looks like that in combination.
I don't actually know whether or not it's good.
Right.
I don't actually know whether or not it's good. It's Pixar, so maybe.
But it looks good.
Yeah, well, I just realized that it was Mulan. I just realized that it was Pixar. Oh, God, I just looked at the Mulan thing. That's why I said that. Also, A Quiet Place 2 is supposed to come out in March 2020.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus fucking Christ.
The Invisible Man, that's happening, right?
Here's the problem. We're reaching a point where there aren't going to be any good months to release a movie anymore because every month it's just jam-packed with potential hits.
Potential blockbusters that won't be blockbusters.
Yeah,
it's rough out there, too. I mean, the Lego Movie 2 bombed. I think everybody thought that was going to be a hit, and it wasn't.
Wait, really? It bombed?
It didn't do well.
Can we swerve from performance of the movie and
Sure, yeah.
continue talking about the movie itself?
Yeah.
What else?
I feel like
what else?
we're close to wrapping up, but
I just wanted to say how much I really loved the new designs for all of the Toho Kaiju in this movie.
Yeah.
First of all, they fixed my boy Godzilla. They gave him his classic spines. They gave him fucking toes because he has to walk. And I was talking to Bill about this the other night. I feel like they rounded him out a little bit. Like his features are less angular than they were in 2014. Like you look at him in 2014, and there's a lot of triangles going on. Whereas in this movie, he felt a little bit more round. He felt a little bit more like, especially in the face, he felt a little bit more like a classic Godzilla. So I
feel like
really
they tried to make him
that.
look a little like Heisei Godzilla, maybe in the face.
I really loved the volcanic approach with Rodan. It's not only a nice nod to what they did in the original movie, but it's also a way of doing Fire Rodan in a really intelligent way. I really fucking love the way Mothra looks in this movie.
Yeah, at first, like, I was the most hesitant because it was, like, the most drastic departure from among the other monsters, but I like the fusion of, like, praying mantis, wasp, butterfly, moth attributes.
Yeah.
And
I saw somebody complain that they gave her a stinger. He was like, Mothra never had a stinger. And I'm like, yes, she does. She's always had I don't know what you're talking about. Mothra has had a stinger.
She uses it very prominently in GMK as well, a recent film.
There's a move in Godzilla Save the Earth where you pick up the enemy and then hit them with your stinger. It's almost exactly what she does to Rodan in this movie. So
It's also Mothra, so if you redesign her, it's not really going to be like...
Yeah, Mothra's had, like, a shit ton of redesign.
She's gone through so many changes
Half of
over
them
the
came
years.
from her own trilogy.
it felt similar to her redesign in GMK, and there's a lot of things about this movie that are similar to GMK. For instance, she does like the reverse of her death from GMK in this movie, where in that movie Godzilla kills her and then her energy goes into King Ghidorah. In this movie, King Ghidorah kills her and then her energy goes into Godzilla. That was neat. There are a lot of GMK vibes. God, that's going to get confusing when GVK comes out. It's going to be.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, a lot of GMK vibes in the movie, and also New Ghidorah might be my favorite Ghidorah.
Yeah, that's a good point. They really nailed him. I mean, I really feel like they nailed all of them.
I mean, it's like after Smaug, I think it's pretty hard to fuck up a dragon type monster in cinema.
I feel like they could have made it too much like that though, and they didn't. He totally felt like his own thing.
It was kind of Smaug-esque, but it certainly was its own thing. Yeah.
You see, I would argue that he's too Smaug-like, which was something I was afraid they were gonna do, but they ended up doing. I was hoping they would go for that more Showa era bulky thing, because I think there's very great potential.
They're not going to do that for the same reason that they had to redesign Godzilla in 2014. Certain things look good certain things look good as a suit. And
but he was also still enormous.
Yeah, he's still fucking huge. I mean, that's
true, but I mean, he was still thin, but still huge. But what I wanted was that bulkiness, which you can get away with King Ghidorah. With Godzilla, I guess you can't get away with it because a lot of people are still bitching about how fat he is.
See, I feel like, again, I just think they nailed that.
He kind of reminds me of Larry Quatch's Ghidorah.
Yeah, it does, really.
That he draws. If you're not familiar with his work, people listening, God, I can't remember his DeviantArt name. Anyway, Quatch does a lot of like kaiju like redesigns, and the Ghidorah in this movie is kind of similar to the one that he's done in the past.
No Backstreet Boys.
No Backstreet Boys. He's not a fan. He's more of an NSYNC guy. Go check it out. Great work. We've met him in person. He's a sweet guy. Anyway, God, I lost my train of thought.
The redesign of Ghidorah.
Yes. Yeah. It fucking works for me. You can say that it's a little smoggy, and I can certainly see the point of comparison, but I do think that it distinguishes itself enough from that.
Did you guys feel like?
Go ahead. No, I was about to swerve to a different subject. So if you've got another point on this subject,
yeah,
go ahead.
I was gonna say, did you guys feel like Ghidorah wasn't really that golden? Like,
I think that's due to the dark cinematography of it all.
That varies from movie to movie. Anyway, there are some movies where he just looks yellow, and then you go to like Grand King Ghidorah from Rebirth 3, and like that's like straight up gold. Like he looks like he's fucking gilded. Like
I feel like this Ghidorah, the skin color is much more similar to Kaiser Ghidorah. Like none of you guys felt that a little bit.
No, the scales were because the scales were ripped right off the Showa King Ghidorah.
I would have to look at them side by side to make that. I can't.
He's Heisei and Showa King Ghidorah mixed together. I feel maybe a little Grand King Ghidorah in there.
Yeah, I feel like Bill would have liked it.
Ghidorah, especially with the leg structure.
Maybe with the horns too, because the horns are a little Cretaceous Ghidorah.
I feel like Bill. I think Bill would have. I think Bill would have liked it if he had had the hair. I'm okay with that.
Yes. Oh, they missed the fucking mark on that big time. That's the only thing.
So Bill,
Bill's a big fan of.
You like it?
Bill's a
Bill,
big
you
fan
like it
of
when
King
they have
Ghidorah's
hair, right?
Yeah, he's all about that hair.
Oh yeah.
Bill's a big fan of King Ghidorah's hair. If you saw Bill's hair in real life right now, you would see the inspiration.
So I guess Bill likes it when the carpet matches his drapes.
I do.
I bet you David was.
None of you guys are
expecting
saying
that.
anything that's. None of you guys are saying anything that's inaccurate. Anyway.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I also wanted to bring up another important point because I don't want to stand this review without it. It is sacrilegious to review this movie without talking about the score by Bear McCreary.
I was gonna bring that up.
Yes.
Whoa. We're done talking about the redesigns?
Well,
Or if you have something else to say about it, go ahead.
I love all
Because
of them.
we haven't talked about this. Fire Godzilla.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, thermonuclear burning Godzilla. That's sort of like the powered up Heisei Godzilla.
I
Yeah.
like
Godzilla
I think-
Unleashed
Yes,
Godzilla.
Yes and no. But here's something I want to iterate. That is not burning Godzilla. You have no idea how many
You
fucking times I have to
lie.
explain this.
It's clearly a nod to Burning Godzilla, but it's a different thing.
A way to get us there, maybe someday.
It's a nod to it, but it is not burning Godzilla
It
because
looks different because it's
Yeah.
a different thing. Fire Godzilla is a power-up. Burning
It's
Godzilla...
more like what happens to him in Mechagodzilla 2. He gets that power up and he starts flailing the spiral ray around.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like that. Again,
Yeah, but-
this is a power-up. Burning Godzilla is a medical condition.
But it was
Right.
also definitely visually alluding to that for sure, and maybe a little kiss that we might get that someday.
right. And also the fact that Legendary doesn't have the rights to burning Godzilla because here's what I found out.
That's why it's called Fire Godzilla. That's the real reason. Not any of this other bullshit we're spouting. They don't have the rights.
Yeah, Toho has different trademarks for each version of Godzilla. And apparently Legendary only has the rights to something called Classic Godzilla, basically to remake that version, which extends to giving him his own power-ups.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what this is. It's
That's
not
why, like,
fucking burning Godzilla.
That's why
Calm
Godzilla-
down, though, Dave. They're clearly fucking alluding to it visually, even if it's not the same thing.
No,
So-
but if you go on fucking Toku Legion, you see so many fucking fanboys calling him
But
burning
let
Godzilla.
them call it Burning
Who fucking
Godzilla.
cares?
What are they? Who are they hurting?
Listen, I'm gonna stick up for Dave. He's been in the shit ever since this movie came out.
I've seen so much shit, man.
So just let it happen. What are you gonna do? You're gonna
can't,
fucking
he can't because he's the only admin who actually does his job. And if
Which is what?
and if he
Changing
just lets-
everybody's diction? He's
and
gonna
if
go.
he
You're
just
gonna be
lets
a
it
fucking
happen.
vocabulary Nazi?
Here's the thing, Bill. I've been poking my head in ever since the movie came out, and it's the fucking Wild West over there. It's like you remember how it was before we like started having rules. It's almost gone back to that level of like insanity.
I'm not surprised. Again, why are you guys surprised?
Again, I don't understand why this movie is so divisive. Like, I know all the movies since 2014 have been divisive, but this is a different thing. This is like Captain America: Civil War.
But think of it like this, Bill. Imagine if fanboys started calling the Showa Mechagodzilla Kiyu.
I would not care in the slightest.
Oh,
Would not
Jesus
bother
fucking
me at all.
Christ.
What am I gonna do? You want me to go on every fucking comment section like I did when I started this shit and fucking just tell everyone to shut up? I'm not gonna do. I have you guys for that now. I can do it in person. I don't need to do that anymore.
Here's the thing. Not only is it a nod to Burning Godzilla, but it's also kind of similar to that video game where he turns into Super Godzilla, and also kind of similar to that certain creation of our friend Jacob Baker's that was featured in that one movie.
Oh yeah, Hyper Godzilla. And hashtag Jacob Baker did it first.
Look, bro, Dave, I know what you're trying to say. I'm just saying, you don't need to get so angry over it.
Oh, Bill.
What I'm saying is he can't help it because he's been in the shit for like 2 weeks now.
So maybe you need to not do it anymore, then, Dave.
I can't. I'm in too deep
And
now.
that is your choice. That is your Serizawa picking up the nuke and walking into Godzilla's house and blowing it up.
Not. He's not. That's the thing. He's not Serizawa. You want him to be Serizawa, but he's not. He's fucking Sam Jackson. And he's like, we didn't lose Toku Legion. We abandoned it. And he's trying to fucking...
He's gonna get crushed by it one day when it wakes up after he tried to blow it up. And I'm not saying you need to get rid of the group. That's not my point, because I know a lot of people love to use it. I'm saying that...
And we got way too big.
You also don't have to go so hard with the adminning. Just, make sure people aren't calling each other fucking dicks and cunts, and I think you're good. You don't have to fucking take a knife to everybody's comment every time somebody calls Godzilla Burning Godzilla.
Nah, you're right. I mean, we got to.
Yes, I know I'm right. I'm
You're
well
right,
aware
right.
of that fact.
It's like that fucking Rodan confirmed shit. That motherfucker. You remember that shit?
Hilarious.
I remember
Now.
that.
Now,
Oh, it's good to live in a world where we have a legendary Rodan.
now we've had Rodan. Rodan finally.
Now,
confirmed.
He is
now it's confirmed, and the joke is dead.
He was confirmed now.
No, I saw. There's one YouTube channel who put up like some of the music from the movie that I've been listening to,
Yeah.
and it just said #Rodan confirmed in the title.
God.
And I had to clap in my just sitting in my house, just listening to it. It was so good.
That's a good transition point to the topic of the score.
Yeah.
Yes.
What did you think
Yes.
of Rodan's theme?
I can't remember it off the top of my head. I clearly remember the Ifukube throwbacks, but I enjoyed I remember enjoying the original music while I was listening to the movie, but I feel like it's one of those things where I have to look back on it, maybe listen to it separately, and then get an opinion on it. But
It's the thing. It's kind of like Hans Zimmer in a way, in that I can't hum it right now,
right.
but what I do remember is what it made me feel and what it conveys in the scene.
Right.
And the cool thing about the Rodan music, as much as I wish that they had used some of his original music like they did for Godzilla and for Mothra, what I like about the Rodan song is that it conveys that sense of like kinetic energy and just like fast-paced action in that sequence when Rodan is flying around and destroying jets and leveling the city. They brought back Rodan's greatest power, where he just flies over a city and the whole thing fucking just blows away.
Yeah.
I should have brought this up when we were talking about the plot. Did anybody else think that Monarch kind of fucked up when they try to get Rodan to chase them? Because they led him in the direction of the city, and
No, they
I feel
let
like
him
that
away
was-
from the city.
Yeah.
They let him out to sea.
Yeah, they
That's
they let him in the direction of Ghidorah.
Instead
Yeah,
of
but
just flying inland and causing more damage. So he flew over a part of the city, but he
The
didn't
city-
destroy the city.
The city was already a lost cause. Let's be real. And that one
But
little,
he
that
didn't
one,
even
that one
get
little
into
boy,
he flew over a part of it.
that one little
yeah,
boy,
but
that
he
Monarch
still caused
soldier was
significant damage.
that one little
It
boy that
couldn't-
Monarch
okay.
soldier was trying to save. I'm just going to call it now. He's dead. There's no way they saved that kid. That was fucking. They're all
You're
but
like
he was
the
in a
mil-
helicopter.
You sound like the military in the opening. Like, oh, there was still collateral damage. They're giant monsters. There's going to be some collateral damage. But the point is, they stopped him from destroying that entire coastline. They brought him to Ghidorah so they would fight out there, and then the victor would be settled out there. That was the idea.
You just came prepared to fight me after all the years of Bill meetings,
No,
aren't
I
you, Bill?
saw the movie, and I'm telling you why you're wrong. It's that simple.
Listen. He's Serizawa right now. You're Amanda Waller, and it's a whole. But yeah, no, that city was already a done deal. They were like, we need to get him away from there so that we can maybe save a dozen people.
So then they
Like-
fight out the city. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we're acting out the whole movie right now, just switching characters.
Let's see.
I wish we had seen a little bit more of Washington D.C. getting destroyed.
Oh yeah, yeah. That was like
Also,
a single shot, and that was it.
John Goodman was very wrong when he said that there would never be a more script time in Washington. What started out as just a Trump joke has way more meaning now.
Oh, I meant to mention this at the start. Now that it's perfect time. That was the scene where we got the little nod to Ford Brody, I think, because there was a boat called the USS Brody, and I think that maybe that was like his ship that he was commanding, and maybe that was his. That was what he got after 2014, after all the shit he had to go through. Maybe it's not a. I'm not like saying it's 100% done deal. Already fucking.
It is.
You already sent me a letter.
I can buy that. I can buy that.
You're right. You're right.
I can buy that, except that he's not a Navy guy. He was like a bomb disposal
guy. He's a bomb disposal guy who couldn't dispose a bomb.
So they were like, you know what? We're going to give you a boat. And he's like, I don't know how to captain a boat. Well, here you go anyway.
No, Bill, you're right. Doherty did confirm that that's a small little nod to Brody.
Okay, well maybe he's not commanding it, but could have even just been the the name is a little nod to him. But that's what I like to that's a. Even if he fucking wasn't a fucking super Navy guy, it makes sense to me that he would be on the bridge of one of those things with going after the monsters in that sequence. You definitely have him as a commander.
Going back to the score, though, I got to say I was a little worried before the movie came out because I did listen to the score before the movie came out. I couldn't help it. I didn't listen to all of it, but I listened to a lot of the tracks, especially the ones where he was reusing old music.
Yeah.
And I was a little worried about the fucking choir of Japanese dudes.
Oh.
Who were just going, in the background.
Suya.
I didn't love that when they did it in Broly, and I was a little worried that it was going to be annoying in this too. But I gotta say, in the context of the movie, I thought it really worked. Especially Ghidorah's music. I really like the chanting in that music because it's like really like low and foreboding and like scary. It reminds me of the theme music from The Omen.
Yeah, that's some good fucking music. I knew that this was going to be a Godzilla score to stand the test of time because Bear McCreary did such a great job on the last God of War game. You know, the score of that will transcend the test of time for game soundtracks.
I haven't seen the AVGN movie, but he did the music for that. So
he did that, and that score is also good. I mean, it's not as good as God of War or this, but yeah, it's a little more low key.
Budget, I assumed.
Yeah, it's still good.
Hey, Andres.
I'm so glad this wasn't like a Ready Player One situation where like you hear Godzilla's theme for like 5 seconds and then it goes away. It's like a full-on commitment.
They did it properly. They did the march. They did the march
to it. And same with the Mothra one. They committed to the whole Mothra
Yes!
song.
I almost liked the Mothra song's inclusion more than the Godzilla because I knew the Godzilla theme would be in there.
No, I think the
Mothra, when I heard the Mothra song.
Yeah, that was because I didn't know it was going to be that good. Oh.
I think the Mothra track is the best track in the movie, actually. I agree. I think it's the best thing from the soundtrack. There are a few more Ifukube scores that I wish they had used, like the classic military march, you know, the
Yes.
I thought we would
There
get
was a place for it, too, when they were going to revive Godzilla. They could have put it there.
Every time Monarch was doing one of their operations, it would have been a good place to put it. Honestly, there's a million places you could have put it in this movie. Just a little da-da-da-da-da. And then, you know, some of that classic fucking... Is it...
Did they... I forgot. Maybe I missed
it. They alluded to it. It's part of Rodan's theme, but it's not... They didn't just take the original score like they did for Godzilla's theme and just did it. The brassiness of that... It's there, but it's not the same. But the horns are there, and I think that I like that they at least did that. But I'm with you guys. I wanted Rodan's theme. I thought that was like the big thing we were gonna get in addition to Godzilla's theme.
Is Bear also doing the score? Is Bear also doing the score for Godzilla vs. Kong, or do we not know?
No, I don't think that's confirmed yet, but I think it's likely.
Because I would love to get that track from the original KKBG.
Yeah.
It's the Godzilla Palooza theme.
Yes, it is.
That's one of the best tracks that was only used in one Godzilla movie, right up there with like the Terror of Mechagodzilla music for me.
Mm-hmm.
Or what about one thing? Sorry. One thing I always wanted to hear make a comeback, which only made a comeback in Shin Godzilla, was the bum 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 bum.
Yes, from the original Godzilla, son.
It never came back.
Yes, no, that was one of my favorite parts of Shin when he's walking around. That's no. Oh, yeah. Okay. No, that music's real good.
Anyways, what is it, David?
Does the chanting in the soundtrack have any meaning in Japanese, or is it even in Japanese? Because I hear
a lot of it.
When he says Gojira, I think maybe.
No, that's a weird.
Well, fucking obviously.
In the I didn't pay attention to the chanting. Only in the cover for Blue Oyster Cult's Godzilla. And the weird thing with the chanting is that they clearly had these guys. Either they're speaking in Japanese, or they're actually Japanese. I'm not sure, but the weird thing
there's a video where you see them composing the score, and they look pretty Japanese to me. They're wearing like traditional like Japanese, like, you know, that stuff that they wear in the movies when they're like out fishing or whatever, like the little headbands and the fucking outfits.
Cool.
Like, they look pretty Japanese to me.
They look pretty authentic to me, Mr. America.
The weird thing is, like, when they're chanting, they're not saying Gojira. They're simply saying Godzilla, but in a weird Japanese accent. So it's like, it's very weird that
the Japanese know that Godzilla is a name, though. They know that that's what we call it. They're not, like, ignorant to that fact.
I thought I heard a proper Gojira a few times. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just the way I heard it in the song.
I heard it. They clearly would have said G, but instead they say Z. So it's
a lot less clear. It's a lot less clear than the fucking chanting from Broly, where they're like fucking Gogeta, go! Like,
yeah. Well, because the reason I thought that was because in the end cover of Godzilla, which I loved, the guy singing is saying Godzilla, but then the chanting guys, they sounded like they were saying Gojira.
I didn't love the cover of the Blue Oyster Cult song just because.
Oh, I did.
I thought the instrumentation and everything was fine. I just didn't care for the dude from System of a Down's vocals.
Yeah, I didn't like it.
Me too.
I'm not
I
a
fucking
fan
hate
of it.
Serge Tankian.
I'm not a fan of his, but I liked him in his.
I don't
System
know
of a
him
Down.
outside of this.
I like him in
So.
his System of a Down. It's like, wake up! Why did I let us shake up? Why did I get
Yeah.
the name
That's the very reason why I fucking hate him.
I like him in those songs.
It's the only System of a Down song that I know. Yeah, it's.
I liked him in that one, but what was it called? BYOB. That's the name of the song.
Oh, Jesus fucking Christ!
I like. Okay, when he's doing his own thing, fine, but his I don't know. I thought he sounded too like nasally in the Blue Oyster Cult's cover, but it's like.
I didn't notice that at all.
Andres!
That's how he sounds to me, but as I was watching the song in
Is
the
the actual
trailer,
is the actual singer for Blue Oyster Cult still alive? Just bring him in. Fucking.
But like as I was watching it, it's like, okay, I can get behind this. I'm getting pumped up listening to him sing the song. Again, I'm still not fully on board with it. Clearly, like I'm not like one of my last picks for him, but it's like
it's not something that I'm gonna listen to on its own, but it works fine as an in-credit song. You know?
Yeah, I guess. What was another thing?
I like it a lot.
I was
Wait, hold on.
into it by
Andres!
then. Yes.
I should have followed up this with my original question because okay, that chanting they did because I hear them saying this a lot throughout the soundtrack. They just go like Sora, Sora, Sora. What does that mean?
I think that's just a thing to hype up the audience.
So it doesn't mean anything in Japanese?
I don't think so. It's just like a thing to get pumped up.
Yeah, I think they're more just like doing like a phonetic sort of like
So like hua hua hua.
like yeah.
Sounds cool, man.
They're like fucking Winston Duke coming out, fucking Bombay. Or no, that's not him. That's what's the thing that he says? Fuck, I don't remember. Anyway,
Okay, hold on. Let me say something about the Blue Oyster Cult cover.
Yeah.
Oh, you sound like I'm gonna be a buzzkill again. Well, I am, Andres.
I mean we
Not
already
really.
drilled it pretty hard, so keep going, I guess.
Yeah, just as hard as Bill drilled me today. I came out wrong.
All right, take it easy. You're so emotional. God. Fucking just take a drink and calm down. Be happy you're alive.
Yeah, see, I took that the wrong way immediately. You could have worded that way differently.
Well, anyways, I'm kind of surprised that they added that song to the soundtrack because for the longest time, I always thought that the Blue Oyster Cult song was kind of like a satire of the character.
No.
Not really taking it seriously.
Oh, they
I
like
can see that. History shows us again and again. Nature points out the folly of man. That's Godzilla in a nutshell.
It was people who were celebrating the original Godzilla in a time where nobody fucking cared about the original Godzilla. That's what that song is.
Are you
Right,
saying
but
that our song is campy and corny and cheesy? Because I'll have you now. It was a legitimate love letter to the franchise.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Before the legendary Godzilla films, like 10 years ago, whenever, you would talk about Godzilla with, like, with someone from the West in America who's not a fan, the Blue Oyster Cult song would be something that they also associate with, along with the campy Godzilla films like Megalon or Hedorah.
That's because
Because it was in the 70s.
Those are the
That's
movies
just
that
because that's all that they have exposure to. It's just like a lot of people in the 40 to 50 age range might immediately think of like the Hanna-Barbera show. That's just what they're exposed to. They just don't have the same level. Now I do know that the Blue Oyster Cult song is like sort of polarizing. A lot of people don't like it. Even like hardcore Godzilla fans, it's kind of split on it. Some people like it, some people don't. That's fine.
Well, I like it.
As with all things.
It's not as bad as I thought it was going to be after I heard that Serge Tankian was going to be in there. Because, like I said, I really, really don't like him as a singer. But he actually did okay on this song.
He was enunciating. I'll give him that. He was speaking his words very clearly. Not.
Did you guys notice they worked a little bit of the Godzilla theme into the song? I thought that was awesome. There was a little bit of the da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da in the background. That was fucking awesome.
Yeah, I noticed. Good shit.
I fucking thought so.
I'm gonna have to go back and listen to the song for that part. Which part is it, Bill?
Like I said, I love all the.
It's towards the middle and end. It's right after the Godzilla.
It's only the vocals and the vocal performance in that song that I don't really care for. Everything else about it, I think, really works.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure for people who are a fan
totally
of that singer,
fine.
they're gonna love
He
it.
also does that thing in there where he will extend vowels sometimes,
Yeah.
again, like.
There's a little bit of that in the original song, though. So I feel like that's definitely within the spirit.
Also, the main Godzilla theme song. Apparently, they removed the chanting in the end credits.
Yeah, no, there's no. There's a little bit of it at the end. A little bit of the.
No, it's not there at all. I saw it today. I
saw it 3 times.
End credits.
I remember it.
During the end credits?
Yeah.
We're gonna talk about the end credits. Can we talk about that Haru Nakajima tribute?
Yeah, that was real nice to see. Yeah, no, it was real nice to see.
Yeah, that was. In the credits they put Godzilla, Mothra, Ghidorah, and Rodan as themselves.
While still crediting the mocap performers as well. I thought that was they did a good job of that. Right. That was good.
I love the fact that they treated the monsters like I feel like this. Here's the thing. I guess to summarize my thoughts early. I feel like while the characters were not super well developed, I feel like they were for the most part serviceable. And to quote what OmniViewer said on his review of King of the Monsters, it felt like they were treating the monsters as the main characters, while treating the human characters as the supporting cast. You had the main cast and the supporting cast. So I feel like the human characters overall did a great job as being supporting the main cast, that is the monsters. And I feel like that was probably perhaps the thing that they were the filmmakers were doing going into this movie, just treating the monsters as the main focus of the movie. And I feel like that felt very in line with a Showa-esque style Godzilla movie. And that's why, for all the things I pointed out in this movie, whether you agree with me or not, I feel like that's what make this movie work for me personally overall.
You mean kind of like how at the end of Godzilla, King Kong versus Godzilla, the Japanese version where Kong roars and Godzilla roars, and I think it was Eiichi Tsuburaya who said that's a way of them saying that the monsters are bowing to the audience?
Probably, yeah, I'd say
that's
so.
Awesome. I wish they all.
I didn't know that, but yeah, that's great. That's a great idea. Yeah,
this one ends with Godzilla roaring, and the monsters literally bowed in this one.
Right, they're giving a bow to the audience.
I don't know if we mentioned this earlier, but I thought it was really cool that they opened on the flashback of 2014. It's nice to have a version of that destruction scene that I can see. Also, I wanted to ask...
could have seen the Mutos, that would have been fun, but...
Also, Bill, you've seen the movie now 3 times. I wanted to ask you for continuity's sake, in that opening scene where we're seeing the destruction of San Francisco, does he have the spines that he had in that
I was hoping you were going to ask me that. I looked for it the second and third time that I saw it. And they don't really show it. They kind of keep it hidden so that way they avoid that continuity problem.
Okay, well, it's not really a continuity problem because there's an explanation for why his spines are different in that tie-in comic.
Yeah, so, I know about that, but I was looking to see if they actually made a new Godzilla model to put in that scene. And again, you don't see enough of the spikes to really say either way. You only see the top parts of them. And on the 2019 design, the top spikes are already pretty much the same as 2014, so it's kind of hard to say. If anything, I thought the feet looked more like they did in 2014 than they did in the rest of the movie. And we got that really good look at them when he there's that awesome scene where he and Ghidorah first meet and the people are trapped in the Osprey, and it's just like Jurassic Park 3 when Alan Grant is stuck between the Spinosaurus and the T-Rex, but it was way better.
Yeah.
That was great. And you see real close-up shots of Godzilla's feet in that part, and they look different.
Yeah. I also really like that the first thing we see is the Halo jump, the most famous image from the first movie. And if you think about it, when they were jumping in 2014, there's that moment where you see Godzilla's head through Ford's eye hole. So that's probably that's the moment right after what we just saw. That's where Godzilla is walking.
Yeah.
So that's really cool.
I'm with you, man. That was an awesome way to open the movie.
Wait, repeat that again. The moment where Ford peels what?
So during the Halo jump scene in 2014, we see Godzilla through Ford's like goggles, like when he's doing the jump. And when you think about the opening of this movie, where the first thing you see is them halo jumping, and you see Godzilla walking in that direction, that's clearly right before Ford like sees him. Is like they're there and he's walking in that direction.
Oh yeah.
So that's
before Godzilla engages the male Muto.
Yeah, so that's really cool. I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but this was another thing I wanted to say about Ghidorah. I really love the way he moves in this movie. He's very snake-like, and his heads. There's like a rhyme and reason to what they're doing, because a lot of times in the older movies, he looks like one of those wacky inflatable arm men, where like his heads just flop all over the place like a fucking like hose that you turned on but aren't holding. In this, there was like his heads were very like the animation was just really good.
They also kind of referenced the older Ghidorah's way of flying about and destroying things, though, when he was chasing after Emma when she had the orca at the end.
Yeah, that's a really tense scene. There's a lot of...
Yeah, it was good. I like that bit.
It's like the opposite thing of Godzilla. Godzilla in these movies, he hardly ever like seems to notice the humans. Ghidorah, like, he does. Like, he'll look at you and be like, bitch. Like...
He noticed Kyle Chandler. That's for damn sure.
He noticed Kyle Chandler. He fucking came after Millie Bobby Brown hard. He fucking chased Vera through the streets like fucking Godzilla 98. Like, it was crazy.
But the way Ghidorah was like flailing his heads around trying to like just get, trying to just stop Emma's process or progress, I meant to say. It was very old school Showa Ghidorah. And we also didn't really get to see him flying around without clouds all that much. So that was another reason I thought we got to hear it. Apparently, if you listen close, you can hear the Showa Ghidorah flying sound effect in that scene. So that just kind of, that's the seal on the end of it there. That's what it's referencing.
I was kind of bummed that we never got his like full classic roar. At least I never heard it.
It's in there.
That was a weird thing I noticed. Like, I'm not sure if you guys already brought it up, but it's like
Ghidorah's like trill is like one of the most like iconic sound effects in all of Godzilla, and then later it got used as like the alarm sound in Ultraman.
Yeah.
I think
they never went as high. They never went as high pitched. It's a lot more like the newer Ghidorah roars, where it's clearly referencing that, but it's not just that.
I noticed that with Godzilla, they were using a mixture of his old classic roar with his 2014 roar, and I thought that was a bit peculiar. I liked it, but I thought it was peculiar that they were going with two sets of very different roars.
Come on, man. And really?
Hey, I find it strange, but I still like it.
I think it works.
There were times where they just...
Godzilla has been known to make like various sounds in the past, like within the same movie. Like, he does the classic scream.
It's a stylistic change that I'm noticing. Going back to my very first point at the beginning of this 3-hour review, that like I've noticed that it's a clear, distinct change in a stylistic change going from 2014 to 2019, where 2014 they were dedicated to that 2014 roar, whereas here it's like we want to go back, we want to go all Showa style, and so we're gonna say fuck it and bring back his original roar while still keeping the 2014 roar.
I will say that I see what you're saying, but I don't think it's nearly as jarring as like when they would use like the old sound effects in Shin Godzilla and they sounded like way out of place.
True.
Actually,
or even like in the Heisei series when his roar completely changed between movies and they never addressed that.
Oh yeah. He went from a bear growl to a more traditional roar.
And it's like roar. At the end of the day, I mean that's way more jarring, I think, especially because we got so used to that over the course of 3 movies. But in this, it felt like we got to see more of him, we got to hear more of him, so we got to see him act more like
feel Godzilla's more of him.
Definitely, I certainly did.
I like that Mothra.
He felt more like the traditional Godzilla is a definite plus.
I like that Mothra just straight up sounded like classic Mothra. I mean, every Mothra just has that sort of high-pitched squeak.
There were times where they just didn't even remix the roars. They just straight up took the Showa roars and just placed them into the movie without remixing them at all.
Yeah, that's what I was referring to before.
Yeah,
which I was kind of disappointed they didn't do with Rodan because I loved.
Yeah, I'm with you on there, Dave. We finally agree on something. I was definitely a little bit miffed that they didn't just use Rodan's classic roar, but again, it's in there. It's just not. It's not the same. It's in there.
I do love the sound that they use whenever he's like chomping though with his beak, like when he eats that guy, and then there's also that scene when he's fighting Mothra and he's like trying to bite her head off. And there's like a very audible like pop noise, like it's really distressing. It reminds me of, like, you remember how terrifying the birds were in A Bug's Life? Like,
Oh yeah.
that's what it kind of reminds me of.
But to go back to the Showa roars being just kind of dropped in there, it didn't sound like Shin Godzilla though, where it like the sound quality of the soundtrack completely
But, like,
changed.
being
It
a
felt
Godzilla
like
fan. I immediately picked up.
you
on
know
that.
it's where it's taken from for sure, but it feels natural in the actual scene. I think, and I think that's
sound
what they
effects. They were taking the classic sound effects, but I think they monkeyed a little with them to make them fit better into the scene. You know, you
They
had a little,
must have
you
added
had a
the
little,
noise.
you had a little, yeah, you had a little echo, you had a little reverb. You do whatever you got to do to make it sound like it's actually, you know, in the same environment. You don't just take the old sound clip and drop it in with Windows Movie Maker. You know, just what it sounds like uptime and Shin.
They even popped in the 54 roar at one point.
Huh.
Yeah, where was that exactly? I did.
It was in the Antarctica scene. First, it's the 2014 roar, and then it merges into the 54 roar. So they're combining the two.
That's very Heisei Godzilla. I like that a lot.
I like when they do that. I like when they like transition between roars as opposed to here's this roar, now here's that roar, now here's this roar.
Well, don't you guys like that he's kind of capable of all of them now, like this Godzilla? I wouldn't even mind hearing him spout the fucking Zilla's roar. We'll never see Zilla in another movie again. So
they actually added the TriStar Godzilla from the animated series.
Listen, look at the size of Godzilla. Look at the size of his mouth. Imagine how big his larynx must be. The man's got range. He could fucking give Freddie Mercury a run for his money. I mean.
I want to hear those old school sound effects from the 60s that he used to do, like that. You guys know what I'm talking about? Like those little love grunts.
Or like when
Those when he's just kind of when he's like talking to other monsters.
Yeah, yeah.
He's not roaring. He's like doing those little love grunts that he used to make at Ninja and shit too.
Or like when he's fighting the giant condor and sea monster, and he's having that like slap fight with it, and he's just going
That's a little different. That's a little different. I could use that one too, because that's also very early Showa Godzilla. We need some more early Showa Godzilla roars, like when they used to like have him start it and then he would stop suddenly. That was always so cool back in the day. When he'd be like, and then he'd be like,
Yeah.
He did that. That's one of my favorite moments from Ghidra, is that particular moment. Anyway. I mean the sound design it was off the chain, except for Rodan's roar. They definitely could have just stuck the Showa roar in there, and I would have been a lot happier. He sounded a little bit. He just sounded a little too much like the Pteranodons from Jurassic Park 3.
Well, he is a Pteranodon, though.
I know, and again, they made it a little different because they still had the arc of the, like it was in there, but it wasn't as guttural as the original Rodans, and I definitely could have used that.
To me, Ghidorah sounded more like Grand King Ghidorah from Rebirth of Mothra, where it's sort of a deeper sort of.
I got a Heisei vibe too.
And it's not like the classic like noise. It's more like just sort of like dragony, sort of like grunts and shit like that. You know what I mean?
If anything, the GMK Ghidorah sounds more closer to the Showa Ghidorah.
I also like they kind of went Heisei with this one. Like they remember when they kind of mixed Rodan's roar with Ghidorah's in the Heisei series. It sounded a little like that kind of style.
I just want the fucking classic Showa fucking Ghidorah trill. And it works because he's an alien and it sounds all like otherworldly. You know, I hate to give the anime trilogy credit for anything, but they did use it once. I remember. I don't remember where it was, but I remember hearing it.
Well, since we're on the topic of roars, I was going to bring this up when we were talking about the Nakajima tribute. You can hear the Showa roar when they bring up that picture. You guys didn't hear that?
No,
I've only seen the movie the once, and I didn't know.
Was it like super soft? I didn't really notice that.
Oh yeah, it was super soft because
okay.
The first time I saw this movie, I saw it in IMAX, and I didn't notice it. But to be honest, I was talking with my friend, and I was a little distracted. The second time I saw it, which was earlier today, I heard it, and this was a shitty theater. but I heard. I
saw it 3 times. I can't believe I didn't notice that.
I
noticed it during the Blue Oyster Cult song. It's in there, but it's like the legendary roar.
Oh well. Well, no. This one is the Showa roar.
No, I know what you're saying. I'm saying I noticed it there though, instead of where you.
Next time you do see it, listen closely because it's super soft and I guess it's easily dismissible. Like, you know,
Well, it's also because the music and it cuts
Yeah,
right to
and-
fucking. We see Ghidorah's head in the next scene.
Yeah.
They used a really good picture of Nakajima too.
Oh,
Although I
Yeah,
kind of wish,
from
love
Sea
that
Monster.
picture.
although I kind of wish they'd used one of the ones where he's just chilling out on set with like the Godzilla pants on. But those are my favorite, where he's just walking around like with his torso out, but he's got like Godzilla legs.
I think they wanted people who aren't massive Godzilla fans to know who that is. I think that was the idea. And to to put the face of a man who defined the early Godzilla series on screen, who hasn't gotten that luxury in an American movie theater.
I think that's the only picture of Nakajima where you can see his face clearly and with the Godzilla suit.
Yeah, no, that's why I think they used it.
That's probably why they chose it. I don't know if it really communicates who he was to a person who's not familiar, though, because it kind of looks like he's riding on Godzilla's back in that picture, which is odd. Like, who's this guy?
He was Godzilla's mount, or his what are they called on horses?
Mounties?
No, Mounties. Yeah, fucking Canadian cops.
No.
They're called
jockey.
jockeys. Thank you. Yeah, there you go. I couldn't think of the word.
Although Mountie would make more sense, but no, that's a Canadian like.
Well, I think that's maybe why they got that title, but it's just funny that you pulled that. Fucking, they should have Mountie racing.
Well, I guess anyways.
With guns.
The thing I wanted to mention. Okay, so last thing to talk about. What do you think is going to happen with that Ghidorah head during the end credit scene?
Okay, there's some different possibilities. Mecha King Ghidorah is the obvious one.
I'm putting my money on Mecha King Ghidorah.
Another one that
that's
I
what
don't.
we're supposed to think. Yeah.
Another one that I don't think will happen, but I have to say it, or else people will fan rage. Baggin.
What?
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah,
Because
some
one
people
of-
think
because
that's
one
set up
of-
for bagging.
Because one of Baggin's potential origins was that he was going to be a mixture of Ghidorah and Godzilla DNA.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Godzilla DNA would be easy enough to come by in this universe, but Ghidorah DNA, if you want that, the head's your only option. I saw somebody, I think in Toku Legion, had this crazy theory that I don't think is true, and I don't even think I would want it to be true, but points for creativity. They were like, what if they used Ghidorah's DNA to fuck with Kong, and that's why Kong gets bigger and gets lightning powers? And I was like, you know what? I don't want that. I don't want that, but congrats. Like, I never would have thought of that.
The only problem is that, like, the actor is not coming back for Godzilla vs. Kong.
Charles Dance.
Yeah. Charles.
Yeah,
Dance is-
He's not coming back, really?
He ain't coming.
Yeah,
back.
he's not part of the cast. He hasn't been
That's
confirmed.
wild, because I feel like they were setting that up. All
Yeah,
right.
it makes
could
sense
always-
that they're gonna do
They
something.
could always pull a fast one on us. I kind of hope he does show up in that movie by surprise, just because.
Yeah, I kind of was like under the impression he might be the villain. All right.
Show up, surprise, motherfuckers!
Just because I hope we don't get one of those situations where it's like a post-credit scene setting up a movie that never actually comes to fruition.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope. Yeah, that's not. I don't want that.
That would be this movie's baby Godzilla hatching from '98.
Oh, from '98, you're talking about. Okay.
From '98,
or like from Tokyo
or
SOS
Green
when-
Lantern.
When the baby Godzilla egg hatches and roars at the camera, and then I'm like, and then they never made another movie again.
Yeah, no, I mean, in Tokyo SOS, they zoom in on a bunch of Godzilla cells in like a fucking G-Force lab or whatever it is, and it's like, oh, okay, they never did nothing with that.
Or in GMK when the heart is still beating. Which, by the way, they
Yeah.
totally stole that from Reptilicus, but whatever.
Well, I don't think that ending for GMK was supposed to set up a sequel.
I think it was just Godzilla still alive.
No, and
Yeah.
I don't think the thing he's talking about from SOS was supposed to necessarily set up a sequel either. I mean, that's the Millennium series. Everything was anthology.
See, I feel like the one from SOS was more so setting up a potential sequel. You know?
Well, I
'Cause
guess according to
I know that, 'cause-
according to Patrick, the director said he had no plans for a sequel.
Okay. It felt like that was like we can get another Godzilla someday, or maybe another Kyu.
Or how they like tease like at the end of Destroyer, like, "Hey, Godzilla Jr. still around."
Yeah.
Ah?
That's another one though where it's like you can just kind of now like analyze that as Godzilla's still around, so it's just part of the theme. Yeah, no, I can definitely see why the Tokyo SOS one can be that too, but that just felt to me more like we can use this for something, you know. Being now, Andres, I know you're probably going to want to wrap this up soon.
Yes,
It's almost
we are.
4 a.m. for me, so I'm down.
So-
I think they should use Ghidorah's DNA and his crazy space magic to create Jet Jaguar.
We don't get Jet Jaguar in Godzilla vs. Kong, or if Kong doesn't put on armor that resembles Jet Jaguar, then I'm gonna
Yes,
be pissed.
that would be the only plausible way for Kong to beat Godzilla. He becomes Jet Jaguar, the greatest hero in the history of not just Japan, but nay, the world.
Yeah.
And then he flies up Godzilla's anus and grows.
You had me at
Hashtag-
space magic.
Hashtag Godzillanus.
Godzilla anus. Hey, you know what? He did it to Orga in the comics. They did Thanos
went up
before
Orga's
Thanos
anus.
was even a thing. He didn't go,
He can
up
go up his butt.
but he
Who knows?
still
Maybe his
did.
mouth is his butt.
It's exactly the same. It's
He only has one orifice, Bill.
You know,
For
the
all we
mouth.
know,
and-
he could do both eating and shitting through the
Orga-
mouth.
Bill, the mouth and the anus. The mouth and the anus are but two sides of the same tube.
He still didn't go up his ass though.
So anyways, final thoughts
That's
on
the entire concept between the humans.
David's fucking sound there was so perfect.
Final thoughts on Godzilla. Where does it rate on the Jizz scale, or any other rating you decide to use?
Scale.
You know, on a critical rating, I would give this movie a solid 7 or 8 out of 10. But on the jizz scale, it's probably about a solid 12 out of 10. So much jizz. So little time.
That sounds like Bill's Saturday night.
All right, nice try, David.
Wait, my turn?
Yeah.
Well,
Anyone else wanna go?
let's go in
Go ahead.
reverse-
Why don't you
let's
go
in
ahead then?
Reverse order.
So Andres, that will be you then. You went last.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
No. I mean, like it's Dylan and then David, then Bill, then me.
Just David, say a thing. Just say it.
All right.
Just do-
All right, so
Do it.
first time I saw it, I was polarized and a bit disappointed. Second time I saw it, I actually liked it better this time. As a piece of big budget B movie, popcorn film, I gave it a 2.5 stars. If we had done this review last week, I probably would have just given it 2 stars. But since I watched the movie before the review to get a fresh perspective,
Wow, a whole
Yeah,
half
it's
a star. What a ringing endorsement.
half a star makes all the difference. Bill, do you want me to give you a rating, Bill?
You can do whatever you want, David. That's what I've been trying to tell you this whole fucking podcast. You don't fucking listen.
That sounds homoerotic, Bill. Are you sure you want this?
Not that. No. If that's what you're offering, then that's a big no from me, Chief.
I'm sure he's gonna have it all.
All right. We talk about Godzilla still, or
All right. So is that it, David?
Yeah, 2.5 stars for me
Okay.
out of 4.
All right.
all right. Well, I'm gonna give him the wrong opinion now. No. This is in my top 10 now, big time. It might even be number 6, right after like a Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla 75. I had a real good time with this one. I cannot fucking wait to watch it in my house on Blu-ray. Oh, it's gonna be a good day for me.
So much
It's one of the best theater experiences I've had. Definitely with a modern monster movie, because I just had so few things wrong with it, and I was just so fucking entertained for every goddamn second. Oh, it fucking worked for me, man. So jizz scale, I mean, it's shattered. It's gone. There's jizz everywhere. It's all over David's face. He's very happy.
Oh,
I'm filled with shame.
Is it better or worse than Ghostbusters 2?
It takes Ghostbusters 2 and Godzilla stomps on it. It might even be better than Ghostbusters 1 for me, but that's just sheer spectacle though. Ghostbusters 1 is a great movie, but it doesn't have the kind of spectacle that this movie has. But
insert that picture that I always used to use of Randy Marsh covered in his own cum.
this is this was a movie I've been waiting for, maybe even going this far to say since I was a kid. Like, this is the kind of thing I've been looking for in these modern monster movies that we've gotten bits of. This was the real deal this time. So I was set immensely on every level.
Let's see. For me, I'm definitely going to give it a 4 out of 5. It is a solid throwback to, giant 50s, 60s giant monster B-movie schlock. It wears that proudly on its sleeve. It's a particular style that may not appeal to everyone, but it certainly appealed to me. I thought the characters were were adequate enough, were engaging enough to carry the story and bring us from scene to scene. I was never bored throughout the roughly 2 hours of this movie's runtime. The monsters were amazing, handled with great care, given life and personality, and a lot of respect, I feel. There are several certain characteristic choices, mainly Rodan, that again, some people might not dig. I understand that, but for me, I totally love a lot of what this movie brought to the table and the reinterpretations of these characters. Enjoy the lore, enjoy the music, enjoy the characters, enjoyed everything. I'm not really sure where this ranks on my personal list of favorite Godzilla movies. I don't really rank Godzilla movies generally outside of like my top 3 or 5 maybe.
Yeah, see, I have a 5, and I was like, this doesn't break that, but it's pushing it. It's pushing against the wall for me. That's why I put it at 6.
I thought Andres was about to say, I don't know how this ranks on my personal jizz scale. I mean...
like, really forlornly, I just don't know how much jizz was coming out of me, guys.
Maybe a solid...
It's full. It's not spilling. It's not breaking. It's full, but I'm very curious to know where this is going to rank for me, because my opinions on Godzilla 2014 has changed quite a bit in the 5 years since that movie, so it's going to be interesting to see. Again, I've only seen this movie once, but I'm curious to know how I'm going to react to this movie later down the line. But I feel like it's on par. I enjoyed this much more than 2014, and I think it's on par with Skull Island. And I feel like both movies were made roughly in the same style of these sort of like adventure, sci-fi, monster adventure movies throwbacks. And yeah, it worked for me. And if you don't like it, I perfectly understand. And you're always entitled
but
to your own
here's an
opinion.
oxygen destroyer.
And shove it right up your butt.
You're allowed to be wrong. This is America.
Just God-given right. Just ask David.
America. Don't get you slipping now.
I will say, Andres, I agree with you. 2014 is a movie that has aged a lot, despite only being 5 years old. I definitely don't enjoy it now as much as I did when I first saw it, but I have a feeling that this one is going to stay pretty consistent for me. I would say that if anybody's watching this who hasn't seen the movie yet for some strange reason, first of all, you just gave you all the spoilers, but also adjust your expectations, because I do think the trailers have sold you not quite what you're getting. First of all, most of the Rodan that's in the movie was already in the trailer, so you've already seen most of that. But also, I feel like you've been sold a Ghidra, and this is more in line of a Destroy All Monsters or a Final Wars. So if you're the kind of person who enjoys that flavor of kaiju film, as well as the more serious, like, thoughtful stuff, then you're going to have a great time with this. If you're not, then you're probably going to fall on the other side of the pond, and that's fine.
Yeah. So, those have been our thoughts. What?
Where?
What was that?
God?
I think you just heard my chair squeak.
Oh, okay, sorry. So those have been our
Tell it to
thoughts.
shut the fuck up.
Those have been our thoughts on Godzilla King of the Monsters 2019. Thank you very much, guys, for having the patience to sit through roughly close to 3.5 hours of just us bullshitting, discussing, sharing opinions, and all around having a good time, or rather, our version of what a good time regardless of how fucked up our interpretation of that may be. So thank you, and a big thank you to all three of you guys. Thank you very much for being able to stay up this late and doing this all just like the good old days, and of course, if you want to follow any of us, you know where to find us at this point. You can follow the SOS Facebook homepage, follow any of our respective YouTube channels whenever, one day we decide to upload content. And, there's also social media where you can follow us through there, and there's the Toku Legion Facebook page for that as well, to find us as well. So, anything you guys want to share before we head out?
It's almost 4 a.m. here. No, I'm kidding.
All right, so...
No, I'm kidding.
Well, since you've asked, I'd like to talk to you about Jesus.
What am I supposed to say, Jesus?
You better not.
For the time being, I have been Andres Perez, aka KaijuNoir.
I have been Zazubar. I jumped in there before there was any confusion.
I am Gorzard, and it's been 85 years since the SOS did a review.
I'm Super DM64, and it's been almost that long since I posted a video also.
And until next time, everybody, take care.
Take care.
Oh, wow. In
And-
stereo.
Yeah, I beat Andres to it.